I think we're live. Checking to see. To ensure that we are. All right then, and we are. Awesome, fantastic. Hey everyone. I guess there are a couple of people in here already. Perhaps, maybe, kinda. It looks that way. Thanks for waiting and thanks for coming. If you have never been here before, welcome to another live with me, Mel, the host of this channel. If you again have never been here before, make sure you subscribe and like the stream. This might be a long one because I have quite a few on my list, and I got a lot of submissions. I wish I had my transitions here so I could zoom in so I could emphasize how many submissions I got. Very surprised, but for those of you that are in the chat and who are watching now that submitted, thank you so much. I appreciated all of your submissions and all of your context. It actually helped me in thinking about my own submissions. Hey everyone, hey Joel, hey Shay, hey Cyborg Frankie, hey Chris. I saw Monkey D. Jiraiya posted earlier in the chat. Don't know if you're still here, but hey, how's it going? How is everyone doing on this wonderful Sunday afternoon or morning, whichever time zone that you're in? I don't know if everyone has experienced the daylight savings time shift yet, but I currently have. I had to go to sleep like at 9:30 last night so that I could wake up early enough today so that I had enough energy to start this live. But if you didn't see the title of this, the topic of today's video, and it got me wondering quite a bit after a lot of chatter around Solo Leveling and Sakamoto Days, both anime that are currently airing this winter 2025, is people's experiences when they have like exposure to both the anime and the manga. Sometimes we tend to prefer the manga, sometimes we tend to prefer the anime, and other times, other times, we need both because like one makes one better, like it makes the whole thing better. I don't know if that makes sense. Despite the daylight saving shift. Yeah, Shay. I mean, it's rough. Whenever the daylight saving shift happens, I have a really hard time. And in knowing that like we're going to do a live today, I was like, I'm going to bed like really early so that we can be present, be here. Also, because I needed to finish up all the material that I had to put together. I was very late on it. Monkey D. Jiraiya, 1:30 on a Sunday, and yes, it was brutal last night, right? Like, how many of you guys are struggling with like the slog of this Sunday because of that? Hey Joe, hey Preston, hey Kiara. But yes, I'm gonna get started soon. And then you guys could provide whatever input you want to input if you didn't submit, as we talk about some of the different like anime, manga on this list. All right, awesome. Let's see here. And we're rolling. Hopefully everyone sees my screen. Sometimes I have no challenges, sometimes I have challenges. That's just the way that things roll here. But yes, so I'm going to start with my picks first before I roll into the suggestions. So I have quite a few on my list. You guys feel free to chime in. I'm going to try to post some polls so we can, all participate together. So in regards to like what I want to start with, Sakamoto Days, this one was like top of mind for me because this one I feel like has generated some of the most complaints in regards to like capturing the action amongst just general people that I've been seeing like on threads, on Instagram, everywhere on social media. And as you can see here, like we have an example of if you're caught up with some of the episodes of Sakamoto and Boyle and just how much detail goes into the Sakamoto Days manga. For those of you who maybe don't read the Sakamoto Days manga, the mangaka is super duper detailed, as you can see here. Like the details are deep, the action is deep, and like people who have been like reading the manga for a while have a strong appreciation for it, even though there's been improvements in the like animation, I want to say. Like the latest episode that just aired yesterday was fantastic. Like I loved it. I was actually really really excited when they started getting to like the lab arc. I was like, okay, maybe this is where the animation will shine. Maybe this is where things will be like better, because in the beginning it was kind of a little bit laggy. You could see some inconsistencies in some of the way that they were styling the animation, and it kind of was like weird. It wasn't anything like horrible or bad, and I'll say this by saying like the animation and adaptation for Sakamoto Days is good. I've been having a fun time and I've really been enjoying it, so I'm not dissing the anime at all. But if you come from like reading the manga to the anime, you start to like look for things and you start to, I don't know what's the word here, like look at some subtleties and inconsistencies in the animation. And I think for me personally, like when it comes to the experience of Sakamoto Days, I definitely prefer the manga a little bit more. And I think it's mostly due to stylistic reasons. Some people who started off as anime only tried transitioning to the manga. Where like, whoa, I don't really like the art style. You could see like the art style is kind of like really rough. The art style starts to like change a little bit as like a couple of like dozen chapters go on, but in the very beginning, and these panels are like in the very beginning, they were kind of rough. They were like a little edgy, and it was like, oh, do I really like this? Do I not like this? I don't know. Joel was awake to 4 a.m. yesterday, so don't know if that time thing happened. Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on where you are. If you like live in Europe, I don't think it's happened for them yet. United States, for the most part, except like some regions, I don't. I feel like I don't know the country that my family's from. They don't do daylight savings at all. Like the time is the time all year round. I kind of want that. Joe, I still haven't watched this yet. Like the entire like anime or just like the latest episode, Joe. So yeah, and I mean a threader that I interact with and that also submitted a bunch of other stuff. AG7X says they prefer the Sakamoto Days manga for these reasons. I think it's hard to translate all the impact and speed of things in Sakamoto Days anime. I think if enough people love and enjoy the project, we could get some better animation in the future, but as of now, it's not hitting the way it should be. And I mean, like, for those of you who are watching in the anime or watching the anime only, like, how do you feel about the anime and the animation? Do you like it? How's the pacing? Like, that's something I'm kind of curious about. Anime at all? I only checked out the first episode. I mean, I think it's gonna be like rough to start for you, Joe, because like for me, the first episode was like a good opener. I was like, oh, I can see where the intention is going. Then, like after like episode 3 or 4, it was like, this is kind of weird. Like, full disclosure, like I tried to get my husband to watch it, and he just was like not vibing after like episode 4 or 5. He's like, I don't know, there's something about this, I just can't watch it. So, I mean, I don't know if that speaks to the animation or how they're translating it. So it's kind of like weird. All that to say that like I feel like my experience with Sakamoto Days as a whole is much better with the manga. I like feel so much more excited when reading the chapters just due to the style of it. And the animation has been really fun. It's been really great. I think that it's doing a good job in introducing like anime only to Sakamoto Days. But if you, as an anime fan, really love Sakamoto Days and is interested in the manga, I do highly encourage that you read it. It's got some of, I personally feel like, the best illustration of action that I have ever seen in a manga. Yeah, Joel, I mean, I feel like if you read Joel, I feel like there's a lot of people who are not caught up on Sakamoto Days. Maybe it was because the first episode or two, but people were just like, I'm just gonna let this sit for a bit. Monkey Teacher Raya. I live in Maryland, so last night at 2 a.m., it jumped to 3 a.m. Yeah, that's when the time normally flips, right? I heard it starts like at 1 or 2 and then it just like jumps. Shay, don't worry, Joe, neither have I. I guess most people are probably behind on it, and I think that's okay. Like, there are some anime that I'm behind on that I definitely need to catch up on, like Ubel Blatt. Totally behind, need to catch up. Hey Dave, thanks for making it. Preston, only the first 3 episodes for me. I mean, that's okay though. There's so much going on this season. Kiarax. I think the art style anime in Sakamoto Days is good, but the manga is much more detailed the manga is much more detailed in the manga. I think you mean anime there, right? I haven't read the manga, but seeing some few pages, I could see myself enjoying it more. If the algorithm for the trailer, if the animation for the trailer of episode 1, it would have been more perfect. I mean, perfect is probably like a long stretch, but I do think that, yeah, the trailer had like a lot of us who are manga readers really hyped because it seemed to capture that like action and that detail that we're used to seeing in the manga if you're a manga reader. But then as the episodes went on, it was like, oh, this is interesting. Additionally, even though some of the earlier chapters are like very slice of life for Sakamoto days, so I can see why they would go back and forth as to whether they would add it into the anime or a lot. They skipped like, I want to say like 7 to 8 chapters in the very beginning to get to the lab arc. And like for that reason, I kind of understand, but at the same time, those slice of life arcs added to Sakamoto's family guyness, like what makes him a family man, like how much he loves his family, and some of the bond that he has with some of the other characters. All right. Moving on. I feel like this is one that most, if not everyone, is watching. Like I can't go on threads like at 11:31 without seeing posts from the latest Solo Leveling episode. And it's just like, oh, so if you don't want to be spoiled on Solo Leveling, you really have to be caught up. So Solo Leveling for me, I feel like I started reading it before there was an anime announcement. I'm sure some of you in the chat also have started reading it before the announcement. And I want to say that like the art style in Solo Leveling is very nice. It's very beautiful. It's very unique. And for that reason, like when I saw the anime, like some of the like character design choices in some moments, like as you can see here, like difference wise, was like really interesting to me. Not interesting bad, but just like interesting. I was like, oh, this is kind of different. I don't really mind it, but it's kind of different. And like I will say first and foremost that having Solo Leveling as an anime and as reading material makes the experience like so much more enjoyable together, because A1 Pictures is doing a phenomenal job in animating this. Like every single action scene, especially in season 2, has been like chef's kiss amazing. Like what's that site that people can like rate stuff on? It's IMBD. I always get the like initials wrong. Like a lot of these Solo Leveling episodes are like 9 out of 10, 9-ish out of 10, and it seems like the masses who are enjoying Solo Leveling are loving this. Additionally, I believe there was like an article that was published that said last year Solo Leveling was the most watched anime on Crunchyroll, even though that was season 1, which didn't and doesn't have as much action as season 2. And I think you guys could let me know. Season 2 has arguably been better in a sense in terms of generating excitement and generating viewership. As to storytelling wise, I don't know if I can really say because it's been really action heavy, but for the most part, it's been like, I love it. Every single episode is fantastic, including the episode in which like he gets really emotional about his mother, because if you start to notice with Jinhu, he starts to lose some of his humanity as the story goes on because he has to like fight to survive in this system. And because he has to fight to survive in this system, I think it was episode 9, that one pinnacle episode was like you start to see a shift in his humanity and like a softness in him that we have not seen like in a very long time, probably since the very first like few chapters or first 1 to 2 episodes. Monkey D. Jiraiya, I've only read this still pretty early on though. So like, are you still early on within like the manga? I mean the manhwa. I think there's like what 200 episodes and change, so it's not a super long read, which is nice. But like the art style is just like it's very nice in the manhwa. So I'll say that I enjoy my experience with both, like the anime and the manhwa, but the way that the anime is moving at like this neck breaking pace sometimes makes me feel like, if you love Solo Leveling a lot, you like love it a lot, so much so that you really want to read it. I highly encourage that you also read it, because there are like smaller moments and like nuances to Jinhoo's character that like will help you understand more about like his motives and who he is as a person, because on a surface level, like he feels really shallow at this point within the anime. um Everyone needs to not hate on the episode with his mom. Loved that episode. He accomplished the main goal he set out to do, and it was a goal that was unattainable at first. Yeah, Joe, like that's a really good point, and thanks for confirming on the 200 chapters. It really like humanizes him. And then the Real Chan anime like submitted like her own thoughts. In addition to that, another anime here, which is the Ancient Magus Bride, mentioning of Soul Leveling. She says, I appreciate each medium separately for what it is. And I think that's something really important to note here. I think a lot of the like anime and manga that I have to mention, they're all good. I don't think I hate any of them. My experiences with them are great. But there are some that I just prefer a little bit more, either due to stylistic reasons, either due to like how they've adapted it storyline wise, or like how they've chosen to style characters in the anime versus the manga. And I think for what she has to say is like really important to note, because sometimes like what you get in an anime and what you get in a manga, despite having both of them, is like different, because the directors and the producers, sometimes they choose to take it in different directions. Sometimes the mangaka or the original creator wants to add more context, or they want to change things a little bit because they didn't have the power or the time to do it back then when they were like actually like creating the story. Joel, I read volumes 4 and 5. That's about half of season 2, and has a better time than the anime, and had a better time than in the anime. Yeah, I mean, I think Joel, you probably noticed like just a little bit more nuance to the characters, like a little bit more storytelling. I noticed that in the demon castle, like the tower that he's climbing, I feel that one family where that girl, I can't remember her demon girl that he meets, they explain like the system of the tower a little bit more, and all of the different families that come between like floor 80 to floor 100. And I feel like they just wiped that from the story completely. Like, yeah, it doesn't add like a ton to like the longevity of the story, but I feel like it adds to like the universe of Solo Leveling and like the world building of it. And they just were like, yeah, cut that out. And a bunch of other stuff, they're like, cut that out. And I'm like, but wait, why? We have ample time. We don't have to like do it like this, right? Monkey T. Jiraiya. Yeah, I'm about 20 to 30 chapters in. So 20 to 30 chapters in is probably still season 1. But the art style, I'm sure you're probably enjoying it. Hopefully, it's very, very nice. Cyborg Frankie. Yeah, I wasn't a fan of his initial character change. He got cold, and then episode 9 was amazing. See, that's the thing about the anime that like I feel like they didn't do a good job with, is that they did not give his character enough time to like be explored by the audience. They just said, we're just going to give him all the aura and forget about his humanity. And then when the humanity kicks, our audience hopefully will take it really well. And they did it. It's weird. Well, you think it's weird, but it's not weird, unfortunately, because we see how like it went. It was like straight aura from 1 through 8, and then it was like humanity in 9, and it was like, oh, wait, our guy is a little bit soft. I don't know about this, but some people didn't seem to understand that. Luckily, many others understood. Like, they understood what was being done here, and like was like, yeah, that was a great episode. Kira, all of the episodes from season 2 were good. Love it so far. Yeah, it's been great. Shay, I'm still in the middle of reading the manhwa. I mean, before you know it, you'll probably be fully caught up. Joe, the pacing is killing me as a diehard reader. They are missing out on so many things. Even some parts of the fight are left out. Yeah, the Demon Castle specifically, way too sped up. Way too sped up. Every single like level was like cut out, and then by the time they got to level 100, and tell me if I'm wrong, people who will read both, or who've been exposed to both, they just like shortened the fight a little bit. It felt like the fight wasn't that long, and when I was reading it, it felt OD long, and I was just like, is this it? Is this it? This doesn't make any sense. Joel, yeah, the anime is way too fast in my opinion. Kira, what are your thoughts on the glow up, from lack of better words, like the 360? Yeah, so that happened in the manhwa too. His glow up in the manhwa also didn't make sense. Like he grew hella inches. He also, his face structure completely changed. Like you could get a haircut and your face could change a little bit, but like it doesn't change that much. It was weird. Um I don't have anything else to say, but it was weird because I was like, how does the character change this much? Like I understand like physiology wise, like if he got more buff, but you don't just get taller. That part was like absolutely crazy to me. So I mean, from what I've heard and what I've read, the artist was still trying to like figure out what they wanted to do with Jinhoo's design. Um between like, rank E to like wherever he's at now as he continued to level up. So I don't really understand in the mind of the artist what they were really doing. And I think that kind of adds to why his glow up was like kind of like, what the fuck happened here? But, I'm not mad about the change overall, but I just don't think it makes any sense. Joe, the fact that they are rushing through like they aren't going to be able to make more seasons is driving me crazy. Yeah, and wait, but first of all, the fact that they already have it planned out, I believe you sent it to me, Joe. 5 seasons in one movie. Like, why can't we just make it 6 seasons and then improve the pacing? We don't need a movie. A movie is an average of 3 to 4 episodes. That's not enough time. Why are we doing that? Hey, Derek, how's it going? Thanks for joining. Everyone complains about him not struggling in the anime, but we see him struggle more in the manhwa. Yes, absolutely. So again, going back to my experience and probably some of your experiences, it sounds like, while I love both because we get to see like the action and we get to see like just some amazing color contrast and animation. Yeah, Shay, why a movie? Why? Like, we don't need any more like Demon Slayer models out here. It's exhausting, and I kind of want to like save my money. Like, let me just watch it here at home, like on my TV with my own surround sound. Come on. But yes, Solo Leveling, while I love both and the experience is great, I'm gonna say like an inch more, or maybe 5 inches more, I want to give to the manhwa due to the pacing and due to the unique art style that we get. It's just like really cool. It makes Jinhoo a little bit more menacing at times. It makes his like power-ups like a lot cooler. And the struggle, like Joe emphasized in the chat, we see the struggle so much more within the manhwa. All right. Dandadan. All right. So I'm just gonna come out and say that this one, Dandadan, is both. Okay? My experience for Dandadan is absolutely both. And here's why. So when they first announced that they were gonna animate Dandadan, I was like, that's gonna be really interesting because Dandadan has some crazy stuff going on in it, right? How are people going to handle it? People are going to have a hard time with like the first episode. And as you can see here, we have Sakura Loves Tea. Their mention on Dandadan is Dandadan seems the obvious example in that both the manga and the anime understand how to tell the story the best way it can be told in different mediums. In most ways, the anime enhances the manga, except where it draws out on the essay being sexual assaults, for like a longer period of time by doing things with movement, sound, and color that can't be done in manga. So yeah, Dandadan, if you're reading, if you're watching, yes, Granny Seiko is like, she's top tier, top 3 characters within Dandadan. I mean, how many of you, like, I'm trying to get these polls up. Some days like this is like days I'm like, I feel like I need somebody like working for me on the side, or like I need a co-host. Maybe I should ask my husband to join me sometimes, which would be nice, right? So that I could get some help doing this. Because while I don't mind hosting these on my own, it can be kind of like difficult sometimes because I feel like I want to do so much more to interact. Anyway, so with Dandadan, the first thing that I noticed, and you'll see it illustrated here, I tried to get the best ones that I could. If you could see it here, like you have these panels obviously from the manga, but the way that, and I'm sure many of you have noticed at some point, the way that they use, like whenever an alien comes or whenever a ghost appears or a spirit appears, the whole like animation changes to one singular color. Like one singular color. Like when that first alien appears, not in the first episode, but in the second episode, everything turns gray, like in this specific one. And until they defeat that alien, the color doesn't come back. Same for this and that very, like, those very sad episodes with Acro Silky. Everything became like a magenta color, which is really cool. And I was just like, wow, the way that they are using color to capture like the essences of the different ghosts. And I have to see how it continues to go on. Like if you saw previews for season 2, it looks like Evil Eye's color is like purple. So I'm like really excited to see how like they animate like those scenes. Yeah. I'm glad everyone loves Dandadan here. It's been such a fun ride, whether you're anime only or whether you're a manga fan or whether you watch both. And if you don't do either, I highly encourage like you check out one or the other. I think I have a Dandadan video sitting somewhere in the ether in my random catalog of stuff that I filmed over time. So yeah, if you want to check that out, but I will caution there's probably some spoilers in that. I try to keep it as spoilers free as I can. Monkey D. Jiraiya. I'm still reading this, so haven't started the anime yet, but it's so good. Oh, what chapter are you on? I'm like really curious. Need a producer, lol. Having a partner is so nice. Yeah, Joe. I mean, I've kind of been doing this for a while on my own. Doing lives, as you know, is not something I do often. So like this type of setup is like really unique where I'm thinking like, yeah, it'd be nice to have somebody to help. Shay, I enjoyed the different colors that they used for each character. Honestly, when I first noticed that, actually they used that with Turbo Granny too. Turbo Granny's was red. That's why when we see Okarun change, he has like the red stripes in his hair and he has more of like a red hue essence, right? Kira, no spoiler, but is there gonna be another episode like episode 6 for the manga readers? No details, but just a yes or no will be good. I'm assuming that you are referring to the episode like where they talk about the backstory of Acro Silky. Is that what you're referring to? Where it's like very sad, very dramatic, and kind of broke all of our hearts. Mel, if you produce for us, I'll do it for you. We could talk about that offline. Shay. Yeah, same question. Let me know what you mean by that, Kara X, and I'll be able to answer your question accurately with no spoilers. But yeah, I mean, I think both of the ways that the anime and the manga is like telling the story. First, it's very faithful, and then the scenes that they do add to the anime, because they do add a lot to the anime. Kiara X, yes, there will be something else like that in the future. As to how long in the future, I can't really say, but there are a couple of stories down the line in the duration of the manga that you will see. Acro Silky Stories is a really sad one. There are sadder ones that you will encounter, so brace yourself. But yeah, like the way that the anime captures these colors, adds additional scenes, like that whole, I think it was episode 4 or episode 3, where they're running away from Turbo Granny and they're like racing, that race scene. They added more scenes to like make the race and the animation like of them like being chased by Turbo Granny longer. It wasn't that long in the manga, and I was like, okay, Science Saru, you guys know what you're doing with this. I appreciate that you took the material and extended it where it needed to be, except that first episode. You didn't need to extend it that long. Like we didn't need to see that. So if you can and have the time, this is one I feel like each material elevates the other, because Dandadan manga is like really detailed, as you can see, very similar to Sakamoto Days. The panelings is very, very like nuanced. And I will say, if you don't know, the mangaka for Dandadan, Tatsu Sensei, used to be a like assistant illustrator on Chainsaw Man and on Fire Punch for Fujimoto Sensei. If you're a Fujimoto fan, Joel, yeah, might need to pick this up next time I order manga. I mean, if you order the manga, the volume covers are absolutely like beautiful. It gives like how do I want to call this? It gives like Bleach vibes. You know how Bleach is well known for like the fashion and the art style, like in its combination. The covers of Dandadan give that vibe. I think it's like absolutely amazing how they do that, and I think for that alone, I would collect like the Dandadan manga. Um, Solo Leveling needs to learn something from them. I mean, I feel like A1 Pictures does too many anime for them to pick up like huge staple anime like Solo Leveling. You know what I mean? Like, either they hire more animators, they expand their operation, or like they don't pick up huge anime that require like better story pacing. Monkey D. Jiraiya. I'm around chapter 50, but haven't read in a while. I need to pick back up. Chapter 50. I feel like chapter 50 is around the Evil Eye arc, but correct me if I'm wrong. It sounds like you're like in the midst of season 2 already, which is great because it kind of sounds like you know what's to come come this summer. Kara X. You know what? I might start reading if it takes too long. Look, you can read it completely for free on the Manga Plus app if you can't order volumes because your girl here doesn't have the space to collect. So we just read digitally. Uh, yeah. All right, moving on. But yeah, that's Dandadan. Honestly, this is like one of my favorite stories, like right now, and it might be in ever depending on how this ends. All right, Go Go Loser Ranger. So this one might be one that not a lot of people know about. There's not a lot of chatter around. Um, this anime or like the volumes or like the manga in general, and I think I can kind of understand like why it didn't get a lot of publicity. Um, it also lives on what's it called on Disney Plus slash Hulu, depending on your region. And you know, most of us are subscribed to like Crunchyroll or like Netflix. And I feel like a lot of us have Prime just because we want free shipping. So if there's anime on Prime, it's kind of just like a bonus. But this one kind of is in like anime jail, Disney Hulu jail to some extent. So like this one's different. This one's a little bit unique. But anyway, it's like it's a whole spin on how like the bad guys, if you grew up watching the Power Rangers, um, or something of that nature, the bad guys are actually like not really the bad guys. They're kind of oppressed. And the Power Rangers, known as the Dragon Keepers in this, are actually like the bad guys. That's the long and short of it. So with this one, there's actually a group of people that I talk to regularly and have been reading this with. And personally, if you watched the first season of this and didn't like it, I wouldn't blame you because they actually they cut out like massive important plot points and plot chapters in this like whole story in this anime to the point that it was like, whoo, so like what's going on here? I actually don't know what the plot is anymore. We skipped like a massive like important piece. And what's interesting is that like I found I need both. The manga is hard to understand because the action is not clear. The action is clear in the anime, but the plot is unclear. So it's like I need the manga to understand the anime, and I need the anime to understand the manga. It's kind of chaotic. Quick question: do y'all manga readers, to all your manga readers, what the feeling when you see the manga you read animated in color? Is it always up to your imagination standards or not? I mean, chat, feel free to chime in on that. But I feel like for me, it really depends. Like sometimes it's as I expect, sometimes it's underwhelming, and sometimes it's like above expectations. And it seems like Shay is answering this in the way like I'm thinking about it, it definitely depends. It depends on the project, it depends on the studio, it depends on like how they adapt the story completely. Because like some people, they understand the mission and they said we're gonna enhance this for like the visual medium that we're doing this for. And then other people are just like, we're gonna just try to carbon copy. And other people are just like, well, let's adapt this like the way that we think it's best adapted. And sometimes that's great, and sometimes it's not so great, as you can see by some of the examples that we've already talked about. Um, B10 started reading Demon Slayer because I didn't want to wait for the movies. I feel like I might have to. I've been resisting, and I actually have Demon Slayer on this list because that was one that was submitted. But I might start reading because I'm kind of mad about how we have to wait maybe like 3 potential years. Like the first movie isn't coming out until like September in the United States, but it's mostly in the fall for different regions, almost every region outside of Japan. David, it's confusing run all around. Yeah. Go Go Loser Rangers is absolutely crazy, absolutely confusing. It's a really cool story because it's all about capitalism, behind the scenes manipulation of like the of society and what they think through like media, and like we see it through like the eyes of who is supposed to be the villain as it has been explained to society, but it's not really that. Like the story is completely warped. So I like this for what it represents, but like both stories both stories are really hard to understand, and it like kind of actually hurts to read it sometimes without the anime, and vice versa. It's like I hope that they completely animate the story, because as I continue to read in what the 170th chapter, 170 chapters, I'm like, I don't get what's going on here. Can somebody help me? But yeah, Monkey D. Jiraiya, I'm not a fan of Demon Slayer anime. I love the manga though. Read the first thing and couldn't even watch the first season of the anime. Interesting. Is it like due to like the art style? Is it due to like the way that they've adapted it? I'm very curious as to why you say that. Joel, I have only had that experience with Dr. Stone season 4, and I think they have done an amazing adaptation. How many chapters are there for it so far? Chapters for Go Go Loser Ranger, I'm assuming you're asking about B10s. I think there's about 170, if that's what you're asking. Yeah, I don't read Dr. Stone. I've been tempted to read it, but I've been enjoying the anime so much that I never got to reading it. But yeah, so Go Go Loser Rangers might be a unique one, but this is one of the ones that came out last year that I was like, okay, you guys really botched the anime in some way, but for some reason, I'm still enjoying it because I've read the manga, and it's kind of problematic that I need both to understand the storyline. All right, because I can't like talk about any of these without talking about Blue Lock, especially Blue Lock season 2, because season 1, while there was CGI, the CGI didn't bother me that much. It felt like it was like much more minimal, and there were more action scenes of them playing soccer. And I'm gonna say this from my bias is about to show really hard, guys, and I'm so sorry. I have to say this from the standpoint of a person who's played soccer, grew up with soccer, family members that play soccer. My husband enjoys soccer. We go watch soccer games. Like, we are a soccer or football, depending what region you live in, household. So when I saw there was an anime coming out that was revolved around soccer and like different, I was like, I love this. I'm on board. I want to watch this. I had never read the manga before up until that point, but I'm like, I'm thoroughly on board with Blue Lock just because like I love soccer. I'm here for it. So yeah, Blue Lock season 1 was good. I really enjoyed it. I was told by others, no problem. I'll call it football if people are all right with it, because I grew up like saying football. In my household, we say football because we speak Portuguese there, so it's football. But regardless, all I have to say is that season 2, especially the first half, because second half, it drastically improved, so I'm not going to neglect the fact that the second half of season 2 was absolutely amazing, as you can see by like the comparisons here. I think they did an outstanding job, in highlighting like the essence of the characters and bringing some amazing color to some of these really important scenes. I think Blue Lock and the animation studio did a good job in the second half in like emphasizing those important scenes. But from episode to episode, in between moments, like I didn't love it. It really like hurt my feelings. And so this is my bias showing a little bit when I say I prefer the manga. Like the manga does a really beautiful job in illustrating the motion in the football match. I'm just like, but why can't we have this in the anime? I don't understand. You guys only pick the important moments to animate and illustrate it, and I don't like that. As someone who loves the sport, I feel like somebody was like, you know, we don't really care about football that much, so we're just not gonna care about the action scenes that much. Like that doesn't make any sense. So I have a lot of feelings about this particular season for that reason. Um, let me catch up on the chat. I heard Blue Lock season 2 dropped the ball. Like more or less, yeah. The first half was like her. Oh my god, I can't believe I almost said that word. But I would never say this about an anime or like a manga because they work really hard on it, you know? What do I know? I don't draw, I don't illustrate, but it was horrendous in my opinion. It was horrendous. I couldn't like I had a really hard time watching it. I was like watching it on 2x speed even though it was in Japanese because I was like I don't know what we're doing here, everybody. They just decided to be like fuck it, right? Cyborg Frankie, oh my god, Blue Lock is so good. I mean, Blue Lock is fantastic. I love it. You know, the story itself is wonderful, like very unique. Takes the sport of a team sport and nitpicks like the mindset of individuals and it like pulls out and extracts like these different layers to it, which makes it so much more profound, right? Um hey Dark Flash, how's it going? Yeah, see, football makes sense, but unfortunately, I live in this country called United States and they choose to call it soccer. Regardless, Shay, I'm extremely tempted to read the manga and I'm not a big soccer fan. When I finished season 2, I'm not sure why people were hating on the animation because I thought it was good. I mean, it was really good towards the end, and I think that the second half of season 2 ellipses the first half. Like if you like close your eyes like this, I think that like the animation was fantastic. I think and like I said, I think this is a strong bias that I'm showing. My strong bias is that I think they just were like we're only going to do the important scenes and we're just going to like sidestep like the rest of the story in terms of animation quality. But that loses a lot of the audience unfortunately, like mentally, visually who are here for the anime who probably don't read the manga. And as I understand it, some people who don't read the manga really loved it. But the reason I jumped to the manga was because at some point I was like, I can't deal with this animation anymore. I really can't. Monkey D. Jiraiya, the manga is really good. Yes. How many chapters are there now? We're almost up to 300 chapters. Almost up to 300 chapters. I thought that like the latest chapters, which is the next arc that we're going into in season 3, which won't cover it all because there's too much, I think are going to be really good. And I think depending on how they animate this season 3 is really going to dictate, I think personally, if I'll continue the anime period. Because at some point I was like, I don't know if I want to watch the anime anymore. My husband completely dropped it. He said, I'm only reading the manga, not watching the anime anymore. Because he felt a personal way about the way that they were animating it. Luis Fernandez. Hi, Mel. I remember reading that they worked on Nagi movie at the same time as Blue Lock season 2. Yes, I did see that. And I think that contributed to like the animation like timing and the animation quality that we're getting. And honestly, I don't think that they should have timed it that way. Like I understand having like Blue Lock Nagi, like that was good. I had a great time watching that movie, even though a good portion of it was like recaps from season 1, but from Nagi's perspective, I mean, the studio really needs to get their stuff together, but I do think like that's just an issue with the Japanese animation industry. They're trying to pump out so much anime that they're not really considerate of the time of like workers, their employees, and then we get something like this. And like I said, you know, I don't ever want to call something like really bad or horrendous because they worked hard on it, and I'm sure it's not their fault. It's due to like the management, poor management of the studio, producers and directors who should be the voices in the room that say we need more time, we need time to get this done properly, you know? But anyway, um Joel, have only watched season 1, so can't really say anything on season 2. Joe, top 3 quality series. Argue with your mama. Okay, it's a really great story though. I will say that there's nothing wrong with the story. It was just the animation. So for this one, I have to say like manga is the way to 100% go. 100% go. Um, I totally get it. I'm deep into football, soccer myself. But the rest is so good. Joe's second half definitely made up for the first half. The style art was absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I mean, I will say though, the very last episode of season 2, I swear, I cried. I cried. That's how beautiful that last episode was, and that last scene where Isagi scores the winning goal. I cried. Um, Joe, we all know it's in your 2, talk your ish. Kara X, they dropped the ball heavy on season 2, especially as someone who grew up watching Moiro, top striker for those who know, and Captain Tsubasa. Animation wise, it wasn't it. Yeah, I mean, that's the consensus I feel. Derek, I feel like if UFO Table didn't adapt Demon Slayer, it might not be as popular. I kind of agree with that. I kind of agree with that a little bit. um, Joe, it could be Slideshow City, but I'll still watch it. I'll be mad the whole time, but I'll watch it. See, I don't have that type of patience and temperament, Joe. All right, moving on. All right, so 2 more. Random question: Have you ever got a hidden talent? Jumpies, burpees on command. No, I don't have any hidden talent. I think my biggest hidden talent, is it a hidden talent? I think I've said it before. I speak a few languages. I feel like adept at picking up languages pretty quickly. So like I speak like 3 to 4, maybe 5, depending on the day, different languages. Derek, I know it hurts seeing PNG lock memes. Oh my god, that's brutal. Like I saw people calling it PNG lock, and I was like, I would never call it that. But yes, a sign of affection. So a sign of affection came way of someone I've been following for a while. They have a anime brand. They're called Linani. They have beautiful anime wear for like women, and like honestly, fantastic person overall. She was reading the manga, and when I picked up the manga, I was like, oh my god, this is absolutely like beautiful. For me, like I definitely enjoyed the anime a little bit more for Sign of Affection because you get to see the sign language in like motion. And I swear, like every episode was like so cheer jerking with the music. You also get Yuki's experience, like you know how they make some scenes without audio so that we could kind of like be in her shoes to an extent, right? There's no audio, but yet you're still watching. You're watching people's mouths move, but you don't know what's going on. So you're kind of trying to understand the context and the feeling and what she's feeling. I thought that was absolutely beautiful and absolutely genius. Something that I feel like you see in the manga, but you don't quite feel because there's no audio when you're reading. There's no like sensation in that moment that could like draw that out of you, right? So when I saw this was getting an anime, I said, oh my god, is this going to be good? Is this going to be bad? I forgot what studio was animating it. I don't know if I've heard of the studio before at the time, but I was like, all right, if they do this right, this could be like top 3 romance anime for me of all time because this is an adult romance. I love how they show different abled people within the story, and they just blew it. They blew it out of the water completely. Absolutely amazing romance anime. Honestly, it's a great story, period. So if you're not like a person who loves romance anime, I highly encourage that you watch it just because it brings different abled people, like she's hard hearing deaf, to like new light. And I think the way that they animate, illustrate, and use sound to help you like experience like what Yuki is experiencing, aside from the other characters, is so well done that I encourage it for like everyone. Joe, love this show. Thank you, Queen of Rocks, for telling me about this show. I mean, Joe, I'm so happy that you liked it because, like sometimes you like what you like. Romance is like it's either you love romance or you don't love romance. So if you're not really into like romance anime, it can be hard to get into. But I feel like this one is one of those ones where it's like even if you don't like romance, you might be able to enjoy it just from the sheer fact that it is absolutely beautiful story. But if you want to read the manga too, I encourage it as well. But I feel like the sensation and feeling that I got from reading and then watching it just gave me so much more emotion. Like I cried a lot when watching that season, man. Shay, I can't wait for the next season of A Sign of Affection. Yes, like where's the next announcement? Granted, there aren't many chapters of Sign of Affection, so I can understand why we haven't gotten a season 2 announcement yet, but like I need this to be animated in full. I can't have like another one of those one-off seasons. David, Sign of Affection is very pretty. Slice of life anime that's rough for continuing seasons. Read the manga, ending galore. See, that's what I don't want. And we get a lot of that, don't we? B10's music is very important to me. It can make or break certain moments. I wholeheartedly agree. Like I can't say that I'm like a music geek because I'm definitely not. But like some anime that I've watched, like 86, if you've watched 86, the music is done by the same composer as the composer for Attack on Titan. It makes or breaks many of the scenes for me. Another anime that has made me cry a hell of a lot. Um, Brittany Smith read the manga shortly before the anime came out and was thrilled that how well they did the adaptation. It was stellar, wasn't it? Absolutely stellar. Like it was is a very happy moment for me when watching this anime because I was like, wow, they took it like levels ahead. I was not like anticipating at all. One of the best feelings ever when you read a manga and then you watch the anime and then it like blows your expectations out of the water because sometimes when you and this is what I used to think until I started doing both, but I was like if I watch the anime, why would I read the manga? I already know how it's going to go. But I've learned from experience that depending on how it's illustrated, how it's done and things of that nature, it can it can really be different. It can be a really different experience. Hence the reason why this live isn't about which one is better, the anime or the manga, but rather which gives like a better experience, especially personally for you, because sometimes music, depending on who you are, is really impactful. It really makes these scenes much more emotional or much more like meaningful to you. Um, Kara X, the last anime that I saw with this type of premise was a sad one. Yeah, Silent Voice. I cried so much. Don't know if I can do it again. I mean, this is an anime that hopefully will not make you cry like that. I cried like from tears of joy because it was very beautiful seeing like Itsuomi's and Yuki's like romance and their relationship like blossom. But yeah, A Silent Voice is a movie that I think I personally wouldn't watch again either. I actually have a friend whose parents are like hard hearing and deaf. And while like, I said, hey, this is a really nice movie, I will say like, a little bit of a trigger warning just based on the bullying elements that you see within the story. Things like that, like it can be really hard to watch for that reason. Um, so B tends more into adult romance than high school drama romances. Yeah, I mean, as you get older, especially for me now, I prefer the adult romances. It's really hard for me to watch the high school romances now. Before, back then, the high school romances were my jam. But now I'm like, I think I'm a little bit too old for the high school romances because I watch it like Honey Lemon Soda apparently is really popular this season. I dropped it after 6 episodes. I gave it a decent try, but I said I can't deal with the drama anymore. This feels like so not real to me. I can't like it's real but not real. I don't like it. Kara X might be willing to take another risk if it's on the brighter side. Yes, absolutely, way brighter. I don't think you'll be feeling that sensation that you felt when watching A Silent Voice. Thematically and like tonally, they are completely different stories. They just have like main characters that are hard hearing, different able or deaf. That's it. Joel, don't bring up 86. 86 is triggering. Like, I'm still waiting for my season 2 though, because they gave me so much emotion. And then they were like, okay, Well, we'll see you in a few years, guys. No announcement of season 2. Well, what the fuck? Monkey D. Jiraiya. That's why I read the manga, then watch the anime, so I get both sides. Yeah, I mean, I think that's really great if you can get the time to really like do it. I understand why like watching anime is the way to go. It's easier to digest. You could kind of watch it on the go a little bit. I mean, you could read it on the go too. But yeah, when you have the time and the ability to do both, like you could really start to like experience in a whole new way. And that's something that I'm also starting to learn. David, this is me and Blue Blocks. I'm twice the age of the high school characters. Been there and done that. I mean, I am enjoying Blue Box. I will say that, but I think I'm enjoying Blue Box a little bit more because there's like a touch of sports element in it, and I'm relating to the characters more as they train for like their competitions and they train for like nationals and stuff like that. Um, Brittany, I'm still into high school romances, but mostly when they have more to them. High School Lemon Soda doesn't feel that way, to be honest. Still prefer college or office romances, though. Yeah, I mean, I think it really depends. You like hitting the nail on the head there. It really depends on the high school romance and how much like there is. If it's like very surface level and just like over the top dramatic, I personally find it hard. But if there's like more nuance to it, and I'm seeing it here, David said I really enjoyed Horimiya. That the last one that grabbed me. Horimiya was absolutely like beautiful because I felt like they were talking more about friendships, not just relationship, like romantic relationships, but also platonic relationships at the same time, and how people of like different personalities like come together and build bonds. That's how I see Horimiya. I sometimes see Horimiya less as a romance and more as like the connection of people, even though I understand that it's called Horimiya because it's like Hori and Miyamura, like not really like, everyone encompassing, but it does a fantastic job in everyone encompassing. Mel cussing on a Sunday is making my day. I mean, I really should not be cursing on these because I'm live and I can't bleep them out like my regular videos, but I'm just having fun today at this point. All right, moving on. Kaiju number 8. So, Kaiju number 8 is an interesting one because this one is also a bit of both. And I say this more so because Kaiju number 8 has some also really good art style. I enjoyed the manga a lot. I discovered the manga through like those free comic book days. If you go to like I think it's in April or something like that. I don't know what day it is. But there's a day in the United States, it's called Free Comic Book Day, and you go, they give you like a pamphlet of like comics and sometimes manga like in this little booklet, and Kaiju number 8 was one of those chapters. And I was like, whoa, we've got a protagonist that's over the age of 30. That's me. I think I should read this. So then I started reading it, got the first volume for my birthday by some other friends who also enjoy anime and manga, and I said, I'm hooked. I'm absolutely hooked. I love the art style of the characters specifically. And as you can see here, there's a comparison between the manga, like, character designs and the anime character designs. I will be super frank. When they first announced this anime and I saw the character designs for the anime, I was like, what the fuck? I don't like this. I don't have hope for the animation because, like, the art style, especially the art style of the female characters in Kaiju number 8 in the manga, are so badass. I was like, so you're telling me we've got a completely, entirely adult cast. The women look badass. And the reason that the women look badass is because the mangaka, the kaiju suits that they wear, the mangaka styled the suits that they wear specifically with Mina in mind. Like, she was suited to wear that. I said, bro, that's top-notch quality as a mangaka, and I love that. So when I saw the character designs, I was like, why do they look like plushie toys? I don't know how I feel about this. But you want to know something? The animation is really nice, though. They did a fantastic job in adding, like, additional context into the story. There are definitely, like, newer scenes in the anime that are nowhere to be seen in the manga. Especially, like, that moment of Mina dropping out of the sky in the first few moments of season 1 or episode 1. I was like, whoa, this is not in the manga at all. But I feel like they just hyped up Mina's character more with this scene. And this was a good touch. This is a good touch to the anime. I need to take a water break. I realize I've been talking for a long time now. I need a water break. Yeah. So if they could, you know, fix designs a little bit in the future, just like touch them up as we go along with more seasons, because we're getting season 2 this summer. Yay. If they could just like touch them up a little bit as seasons go on, I think that will just elevate the anime so much more. But overall, like the anime has been great. Soundtrack is awesome. Music has been great, like opening and ending songs. Like they really did work on Kaiju number 8, so I can't like there's nothing really bad to say in the sense of this anime adaptation. It has been fantastic. I have a fun time. I love it. But I will say that it's a both thing for me. It's a both thing because action is much more pronounced in the anime, clearly because you've got motion. They make some scenes a little bit more clear because sometimes when I'm reading the manga, it moves so fast and I'm like, what just happened? Who hit who? I saw impact and I saw explosion, but who hit who? Like the scene is dope, but what just happened? um, for the trilogy, Weathering with You, Your Name, and Suzume, which is your favorite, and which one should I start with? So if you're gonna watch them, I think you should watch them in chronological order. Here's why I say you should watch it in chronological order. Your Name has characters that reappear in Weathering with You. It's very small, but they reappear. Suzume is like I liked Suzume a lot. Suzume was supposed to be like more of an adult field, but the fact that the female lead was not an adult was weird. And there's some context behind that, but I'm not going to talk about it here. All I know is that there are some creepy people that for some reason said that they wanted it to be a younger girl when the creator of Suzume was like, she should be an adult. Anyway, that aside, you should watch it chronologically. Your Name first. Your Name is like probably a staple movie anime that everyone always recommends, especially to new anime fans, because it's such an easy watch. It's a very beautiful story and it's a bit of a like beautiful tearjerker. So that's the order in which I would watch it probably. So definitely start with Your Name. Mel's got a potty mouth. Yeah. It's on full blast today, guys. Kafka is too relatable, right? Cyber Frankie, he's like super relatable. This is on my read list. I read a few chapters and got busy reading something else, but I have meant to go back to it. I mean, Monkey D. Jiraiya, I feel like for most of us here in this on this stream, we can empathize with you. There's so many stuff that I've like picked up and put back down because something else really shiny caught my attention. I was like, oh, what's that? And then I come back and I'm like, oh, I thought I read more of this. An example of that is The Summer Hikaru Died. That one's having an anime coming out this summer. It's like more of a psychological horror type of thing. Those don't tend to be my vibe, but this one's really cool. And I just need to finish catching up and reading it. Brittany, they did the anime designs, the character design so dirty. Yeah, I think that's the only thing that really like hurt my feelings when it came to Kaiju number 8 was the character designs. Aside from that, I don't have any complaints about the anime otherwise. Joel, I binge watched it in one day and ordered the manga directly after. I can't wait to see the new volume later this month. Yeah, I mean the manga also has like a nice art style to it. I feel like that edginess is one of the most enjoyable aspects of the manga, like that specific art style. B10's been trying to get into One Piece, but the anime feels too slow. Should I just stick with reading the manga? So here's what I do. I read regularly, week to week, whenever there's a chapter available. When it comes to the anime, I like let it build up like 30 or 40 episodes. And then when my husband and I have time, we're like, oh, do you want to have a One Piece day? Should we just like binge like 20 episodes? And because it moves slow, we'll like skip the 10-minute recap at the beginning and just watch what's like, new material. Like it sounds crazy that I say that we watch like that way, but because we read the manga, that's kind of what we do. And I think like it's a better experience that way for that reason. Monkey D. Jiraiya, yeah, I think he answered your question too. If you haven't started the anime yet, and you're just reading One Piece manga, I would wait for the new anime that's coming out. It's gonna be way better paced. I mean, I would still watch like the first anime. There's like some attachment to it. I guess you could say. But who actually does anyone know when the new One Piece show is supposed to come out? Like the One Piece that's being animated by which studio? Because they announced it. They gave us some really pretty visuals and they said that they were working on it. But as to when it's really coming out, we like haven't actually gotten any news. And it's been maybe like a year, right? Um Brittany, I struggle to follow the fight scenes in the manga and generally prefer them animated too. Yes, some, unlike Dandadan and Sakamoto days, some of the action scenes are really hard to follow and very hard to understand. David, Baki has some of the best and clearest fight choreography I've ever read. See, I have never watched or read Baki, but I've heard some really good things. And I think, it's something that I want to pick up at some point. But I think I've mentioned this. If you follow me on Threads, I've been saying this like quite a bit. I think I need some help. I need some help with like my watch list and my read list because it's starting to get out of hand. And I think most of you can empathize. It's gotten so far out of hand that I actually don't know what to do with my lists anymore. Like I almost feel like I need to throw them out and redo them. Monkey D. Jiraiya. Later, so wait, hold on a sec. You're saying the One Piece, the new one, being done by which studio is coming out this fall? Okay. Wow. That's very soon. I didn't expect that. I thought like if I got a date, it was going to be like 2027 cuz One Piece is just like that. Anyway, all right, but yeah, that's my spiel on Kaiju number 8. Yakuza Fiance. So, for those of you who were like on the train of like what we were calling it on Threads, Red Flag Monday, because you had Nina the Starry Bride and Yakuza Fiance, all both airing on Monday in fall of 2024. This was one of those ones that had a lot of buzz, but I've been reading the manga for a while now. It's unfortunately on hiatus. The mangaka has not released any new chapters since March of 2024, I believe. I want to say 2024. So it's been like a solid year since we've had any chapters, which hurts because that last chapter was so good. But anyway, here we are. So I actually didn't think this anime was going to generate a lot of buzz. A lot of people were watching Yakuza Fiance. And I think, for the reasons that I was reading Yakuza Fiance was that it really catches you off guard. You've got this really like masochist male lead and a really boss lady female lead and all these other really badass characters, right? But something, as you can see here, like this guy in the upper part middle is Shoma, if you have not watched. Shoma's design is really quirky in the anime. So when he first appeared, I was like, why is his eye so boxy? Like his irises are boxy. And I get that they probably tried to take the style exactly from the manga, but as you can see in the picture with him and oh my god, how is her name escaping me right now? The female lead, it'll come back to me. He doesn't really look like that. His eyes are a little bit more hooded, and you can see like he kind of has like the square irises, but it's stylized extremely differently in the manga. So when I saw the character designs, I was like, why do they look a little strange? Like I don't love how they look, but I enjoy the action. So like for Yakuza Fiance, I would say like my experience is like a little bit of both. Thank you, Lewis. Thank you, Yoshino. She is like just a badass. I love her. But regardless, like her character design, I thought they did the best on with the anime. They captured her through and through. They made her hair beautiful. Like I love the way seeing it like swish and stuff like that. I think they did a fantastic job with that. Kirishima looks weird to me sometimes. Sometimes his animation is really cool. Sometimes the animation is kind of like stale and stiff. So like, actually, I'm going to say that I prefer the manga a little bit more. But for the anime, what I did like a lot was the choreographed fights. Because one, I was not expecting any of that. I'm like, this is a Yakuza romance with some action, even though there's more action than you would anticipate. But like, they really put some work into the action scenes. I said, whoa, I was not expecting this. Shay, still can't believe that this anime pulled me in like it did. Right? You weren't expecting it. So yeah, I mean, I'm shocked that it pulled lots of people in, actually. Joe, I actually enjoyed I actually really enjoyed it, to be honest. I never picked up the manga, and sounds like I don't. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you really need to pick up the manga. The animation is really faithful to the story. I would say it's mostly like some of the character design nuances are kind of weird, but for the most part, like the animation just is a little bit stale at times. That's all. Like it feels stiff. Um, Good kid gameplays. Is the show a romance? Might give it a try just because of Yakuza. It's a romance. Believe it or not, it's a complete romance, but you forget that it's a romance sometimes. Just like My Happy Marriage, you forget My Happy Marriage is a romance sometimes, and there's no happy in the marriage yet because one, they're not even married yet, but yeah, two, there doesn't feel like there's much happiness going on, but there's more action and supernatural stuff in My Happy Marriage, but it's romance, believe it or not. There are a lot of, I think that's something that's becoming a theme in more recent like media, like manga and anime with romance. There's a lot more genre blending that sometimes you forget this is a romance. So the way that Yakuza Fiance does it is like very interesting. And I think that's why probably it pulled in audiences more than I personally thought it would. All right. Maji Lumiere. Taking another water break because I actually don't know how long we've already been doing this for an hour and I'm almost halfway there. See, I told you guys this was going to be a long one. And I can't believe how long it's actually been already. Anyway, I just need to learn how to speak like less fast and take more breaths. Monkey D. Jiraiya, Yakuza Fiance is really good. I'm still in the middle of watching it. I mean, there's no season 2. And actually, at the point at which they stopped Yakuza Fiance, the anime, they're almost caught up to where, like, the mangaka last stopped, like, the last chapter. So they don't have much to work with if they wanted to start a season 2. We we probably won't see a season 2 until the mangaka decides to make more chapters. So, fingers crossed. Um, David, we need more of this. Maji Lumiere was so much fun. Yes. So for those of you who did not watch Maji Lumiere, because Maji Lumiere was also airing on a completely different platform that we're not normally used to watching anime on, which is Prime. Maji Lumiere is basically magical girls that work. It's a society where being a magical girl is an occupation because they're monsters, kai, that like are part of society in a way, and you need to like fight them. Okay. So they decided, okay, the way that we fight them with magical girls, and this is now going to become a job and an occupation. They basically get paid really good money because it's a hazard occupation, like being a police officer, being like a firefighter. But I picked up this anime or picked up this manga first, really excited that it got animated, was one, I love magical girls, being that so like Sailor Moon was like one of the very first anime that I ever watched. And growing up like on Cardcaptor Sakura and other like magical girl anime like that, I said, if we're going to be talking about magical girls that are full grown adults that have working jobs and occupations, how can I not be on board with this, right? So I will say, and you can see here with some of the illustrations of the manga panels, the art style within the manga is really beautiful considering that they're transformations, right? They animate the transformation so well, like not animate, they illustrate the transformation so well in the manga that I love the art style. Let's just say that. But I will say that in regards to like my experience with Maji Lumiere Magical Girls or Maji Lumiere Co Limited, which is another name for this anime, is that I prefer the anime. Can I just say, and I don't know how many of you actually watched or read it, can I just say that every time a transformation happened, I cried. Every time there was an animation transformation, I cried. This is how like deep Sailor Moon like is ingrained in my blood because I don't know, I feel like it's the foundation of like anime for me. And whenever I see a magical girl transformation, it strokes this like emotion in me that I can't quite explain. And the way that they did it was so freaking beautiful. Like I can't even begin to explain how fun of a concept Majulu Mirror Magical Girls is. It's just so different. It's got an adult cast and it takes something like not as popular these days, but hopefully making like magical surgeons again, like magical girls. And it just like gives it a completely different twist that I feel like if you grew up on Sailor Moon and really loved it, you as an adult can find a new way to connect and relate to magical girls. Anyway, but yeah, that's my take on Majul Mirror. Anime is absolutely lovely, but the art style, very specifically within the manga, is something to like enjoy. So much so that I love both a lot, but maybe I love the anime just a little bit more. Oh, hey Spencer, thanks for joining. What's up? Yeah, this one's been a very long live, so we're here. We're still here. I don't know what time it is, but we're still here. All right, moving on. This might low key be like my last one, and it is because now we're moving on to what people submitted. So, thanks again for everyone who submitted like a lot. A lot of them were like stuff that haven't really aired like in the last year or two, but some that, are probably well-known favorites amongst many of us and have probably gotten exposure to them at some point in our anime watching like lives. Um, its motions, I get that feeling too sometimes for other series. Yeah, there's just some series that like stroke an emotion in you and you just start to cry a little bit. Anyway, all right, first one's up. One Piece. So we got like a couple of mentions of One Piece. You'll see some other shows mentioned here, but just taking out what people have said about like why they prefer One Piece either as an anime or as a manga or otherwise. You know what I mean? So with One Piece, AG7X says they prefer the manga. Only because it moves faster, and I think somebody here was asking about One Piece, only because it moves faster and gets the update story weekly is exciting. The anime is amazing in my opinion, but the pacing knocks it down below the manga, like just by a few notches. And I think that's really important to note because, they don't really do recaps in mangas. Like, it's very rare. Like, Oda will do it every once in a while just because of how long One Piece is. And sometimes he likes to refer to characters from like 400 chapters ago. And he's like, I think I need to remind the audience who this is. So, yes, that's one way to look at like whether you should read One Piece or watch One Piece if it's something that you like you've been trying to entertain. Jabstorm says quite a lot of my favorites: One Piece, Dandadan, Windbreaker, Frieren, Sakamoto Days, and Love is War, Kaguya-sama Love is War, just to name a few. I have watched and read. I tend to enjoy anime more because it captures the emotions a lot better. Sometimes I prefer the manga simply because the art is so much better than the anime adaptation. So I think some of them that we've talked about so far, like Sakamoto Days might be a good example of like the art style just being a little bit better than the animation style, or character designs. Sometimes character designs, principally for like Kaiju number 8, can be like what captivates audiences first, but then you've got the action within the anime to help like bring that emotion and that connection out to the story. So I feel like it really varies. For me personally, as a reader and watcher of One Piece, I first started watching One Piece because, manga wasn't really on my radar like at that time that I watched One Piece. But then, as I finished catching up, and at that point, Whole Cake Island was live on, I guess, Crunchyroll. I was like, okay, I'm gonna make a switch to the manga. One day, I am going to buy the entire collection and probably read it from the beginning once One Piece ends, because I actually do want to experience like Oda's first moments with One Piece, like his original art style, because we all know Oda's art style has changed over the years, especially if you've been drawing something for nearly 30 years, and I would like to see it from the beginning. Its motions. Oh, the pacing is my only complaint for the One Piece anime. The anime provides something a lot more special to me because the voice acting, music, sound effects, animation, etc. I mean, to that extent, I will say that I don't think I would have cried as much if I read for the first time. Like, very pivotal points. I'm trying not to say too much because I don't know how many people, where people are at in One Piece. So we're just going to say this. Like, there are moments, very big character moments, very emotional character moments that I'm happy I experienced in the anime just due to like seeing like the other characters get emotional because it made it, I guess you could say, like more meaningful for me hearing like the voice actors, hearing the music. They were just like really emotional moments that were drawn out more with sound and sometimes the visual too, right? Um, skip time, pre time skip One Piece is my favorite. Yes, I actually agree with that. While now One Piece is really exciting because we're getting like a lot of lore answered and like more lore questions, it does like sometimes make me think like, wow, you know, pre time skip One Piece was like really special, and I really enjoyed like how well blended it was with like action, storytelling, lore, and comedy. Because I found myself laughing so much in the beginning and in pre time skip One Piece, and then since the time skip, I'm like, I don't really laugh anymore. I mean, not that it's a problem. I'm enjoying One Piece still, but I remember finding One Piece gags so hilarious that like I couldn't like pull myself away. Its motions, I like seeing the evolution of the One Piece art. Yeah, I mean, what would be really cool is if we eventually, once One Piece is all done, we could get like a art book. You know how they create art books for like animes like Demon Slayer and stuff like that once they're done? If we could get like an art book of like Oda through One Piece through the decades, I think that would be like super duper cool. And I think that would be like a beautiful collector's item as like a One Piece fan. Monkey D. Jiraiya, Oda's art evolution is the best in manga. Post time skip has absolutely like no comedy. Yeah, I feel like they've been trying to bring the comedy back a little bit in like the more recent arcs. Like if you've watched Egghead, I actually found myself laughing really hard in the beginning of Egghead. I said, wow, I don't think I've laughed this hard while watching One Piece in a really freaking long time. I actually don't remember when's the last time I laughed this hard. Lewis, we don't laugh anymore because they can't joke around or else they die. I mean, yeah, I guess since they entered the new world, you can't really play around anymore. So you have a good point there. Its motions, I did laugh quite a bit in Egghead, even Elbaf. Yeah, Elbaf too. Uh, yeah, some of Wano as well. I agree. Wano had some funny moments, but then they got like really deep into the story, and that was really long. And then, they're trying to bring the comedy back, I think. And it's good. I like it. But anyway, that's One Piece. I will say though, especially for me, I do prefer the manga though. It's just really easy to keep up with once you're caught up, and the pacing is just a lot better. The anime, between breaks, I mean, Oda takes breaks too, but between breaks, between the pacing, between like the recaps, it sometimes can be a little bit hard and like daunting to watch. All right, Bleach. I have a lot to say on Bleach, and clearly other people had a lot to say on Bleach kind of too. So Danny Bima on Threads said, I definitely lean towards manga first, naturally, and 9.5 out of 10 times, when I have experienced the story in both mediums, the manga is always better. Demo, to I guess me. There are rarely occasions when, in my opinion, an anime comes along that completely outshines the source material and elevates the story to a height impossible to reach in black and white. Off the top of my head, Free Ren and Bleach Thousand Year World War specifically. All right. So with Bleach, if you know a little bit about me, Bleach is the reason I became an anime fan. Despite Sailor Moon being my first anime, at the age of 7, I didn't know what anime was. So when Bleach rolled around on Adult Swim, I said, yeah, what is this? I don't know what this is and like where it comes from. But Bleach is that show. It's that anime. And it will forever kind of be like a top 10 anime for me because of what it means to me and the number of times that I've rewatched Bleach. But I read Bleach for the first time when they said that they were coming out with Thousand Year Blood War and they were going to finish the story. So I said, you know what? I'm going to read this. When I read it, I said, oh my God, the anime is so different from the manga. And there's so much filler. This is crazy. No wonder I had no clue what was going on when they were airing this live on Adult Swim, because sometimes it's like the story disappeared on Adult Swim and it's like, so is the show done? And then they come back and then there's a filler. Like there's a beach episode in the middle of the Waco Mundo arc. And I'm like, why did they do this? And obviously that was due to pacing issues that I found out about like years later after, they canceled the anime. But Thousand Year Blood War, and as AG7X says, they prefer the anime. Kubo is amazing, but his art amplifies the music and voices. But his art animated with the music and voices helped to amplify what he wrote and drew. I absolutely love the manga. Don't get me wrong, but I fell in love with the anime originally, not counting the fillers. I think the anime is amazing, especially after all the work they put in for Thousand Year Blood War. I can't lie that the filler does dock it down, but I can't lie, the anime is still where all my love of the series comes from. There's a lot of chatter going on. Let me read a bit. Back to One Piece. I feel like I've missed quite a bit here in the chat. One Piece was my first anime, and I don't think pacing is a problem. About Dressrosa, at least for me. Yeah, around Dressrosa, I feel like around Dressrosa or maybe after, I feel like the pacing issue started for me in Wano. I think Wano should have been longer. A lot more could have been explored. Really? I think Wano could have been longer to some extent, but like there was so much going on in Wano that I don't think Oda could have spent any more time there. Like something had to be done. Chris, I started watching 22 years ago, never had an issue with pacing because that was not an issue at the time. I have had an issue with some arcs, but that's all. Okay. I can understand that. Like, I didn't really think about pacing back then. I think pacing is something that we talk about more nowadays due to our accessibility to like anime overall and our accessibility to like manga as a whole. Shay, I heard, it's motions. I prefer the manga up to Thousand Year Blood War. Thousand Year Blood War, I think that like one, because Oda didn't have time to include all of the fights that he could in Thousand Year Blood War helps. But obviously, like the main driver is the complete escalation in animation style, right? When did Bleach last air? Like in 2012 or 2016, something of that nature. And now we're in the year of 2025. We've got completely different like technology for anime art and illustration that like the escalation of the art has just exploded so much more that like when people now watch Bleach, all they talk about is Thousand Year Blood War because in a way they've kind of forgotten about the other 366 episodes that came before it, which is kind of crazy, right? And this is one thing, like if you were to ask me what I would want rebooted, it would be all of Bleach. I think Bleach can be redone in its most faithfulness in Kubo's art style with the new art from Pirouette Films, now Pirouette Films, or Pirouette Films. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I think like if we got that, like by far the anime will always be fantastic. Like Bleach music is some of the best like soundtrack music like I have ever experienced. Like the first time that I ever thought about music when it came to like watching stuff, period. So yeah, for me, it's definitely like the manga to an extent, but to AG7X's point, I fell in love with the anime first. I never really thought about the anime to the extent of pacing and fillers until like, I started learning more about like the manga and getting exposure to different things. But like, I don't know, there's like this torn feeling between me that it's like both right now, especially with the way that Thousand Year Blood War has been going. I heard the English dub will be fully caught up on One Piece by next week, I believe. I actually don't watch the dub, so I wouldn't know. I really need to get caught up on Bleach. I'm so behind. You have ample time with Bleach. And if they reboot it, I think it would get more people into Bleach, and maybe Bleach would get more understanding. That's the best way I can put it. Let's see. getting caught up on the chat. There's a lot going on here, and I still have a lot more slides. Um, I tried to watch Bleach, but it's one I'm definitely gonna have to read. I think that the reading is very enjoyable. I really loved the art style. I also didn't get the same character nuances in the anime than I did in the manga, like before Thousand Year Blood War. Thousand Year Blood War is like the most faithful work in anime to Bleach. Absolutely, hands down, with additional fights and more context that was never added into the manga. That's anime only and very original. I didn't like some of the censorship from Bleach anime too. Yeah, something else I learned about. There was a lot of censorship that was done within that first part of Bleach, everything before Thousand Year Blood War. And I was like, wow. And I think this happens in One Piece too. One Piece also had some, or still maybe has some censorship that we don't catch in the anime. And I think sometimes that has something to do with like when anime was airing back then. Back then, I think there was more consciousness around censorship because nowadays, with the likes of Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen, they said censorship. What the fuck is censorship? We don't do censorship. So I think that maybe comes with the times. Like back then, maybe a few decades ago or a decade or two ago, they were like, yeah, we should be really mindful. Maybe we shouldn't like animate this to the full extent. Let's censor a bit of it. Whereas today, they're like, we don't need censorship anymore. We just need to let people know that this is rated mature. This is for mature audiences. Its motions, they did kind of switch up the direction for Thousand Year Blood War, which I thought really added to it. Like when the Sternreiter were attacking Ichigo, and then we switched to the Soul Society. Yeah, I mean, I have nothing bad to say about Thousand Year Blood War. Thousand Year Blood War anime, for me personally, in my mind, is 10 out of 10. Especially when you look at the rest of Bleach. They're killing it. Absolutely killing it. B10s, I think Bleach has the best artwork out of the big three. I mean, we all know that Kubo is like really into like art and fashion. And I think like for us, that is like the coolest thing. Like seeing Rukia here in her Bankai form, it was like so beautiful. And then when she just shows up with all this snow gear, I was like, bro, Kubo, you didn't have to do this, but you did this. And it's really fucking dope. Like, I love it. Like, it's just these like small things that you wouldn't think to add. The constant changes in outfits and just like how cool they all look. Yeah, Bleach art is kind of freaking awesome. But yes, some of my bias may be showing there too. Sorry. But moving on from Bleach, because I think all of us have had like our fair share of experience with Bleach. Chainsaw Man. So Chainsaw Man is a little bit newer, as I said earlier. With newer anime, censorship kind of goes out the window, as we can see between the manga and the anime here. They said, what's censorship, right? So with Chainsaw Man, AG7X says that they prefer the anime. Life with Anime podcast says, I haven't read it, but talk about Chainsaw Man anime and manga because the anime ain't it. All right, so I mean, I guess a good question is like raise of hands. You could just say yes or no in the chat. How many of you have watched or read Chainsaw Man or both? It's possible that you haven't watched it at all, because from some opinions that I've gotten, people who don't read Chainsaw Man and watch the anime felt it was overhyped. And to an extent, I think like I kind of understand, because one thing I've learned in both reading, in reading Fire Punch and in reading Chainsaw Man, especially part one, because when I first started reading Chainsaw Man, part one was done and they were on break and they were getting ready to, do part two. Part one, I read that in complete full. Like I read that in like 2 to 3 days because there's not a lot of chapters. I think it was like only 80 something chapters to 90 chapters. I binged it and I was like, whoa, this is the craziest shit I've ever fucking read. And the reason I liked it was because like, I don't know. It was like the neck breaking pace. And I didn't know where the story was going. Obviously there were times that I was like, I really don't know what I'm reading. And I'm going to say this with like a heavy grain of salt. I think once you become a reader of either Fujimoto Sensei's work, or when you've read all of part 1 of Chainsaw Man, it low-key starts to feel like a cult a little bit, because you don't know where the story is going. You sometimes feel very fucking confused. You don't know if you should continue reading, but you have faith in Fujimoto Sensei, because you know that by the end of the arc, or by the end of the story, let's say, you will fully understand the whole story. He does not write stories for you to understand until it's completed, and that's what makes it very challenging. So when you watch part 1 or season 1 of Chainsaw Man, it's kind of choppy. It's really weird. And it's like, who is this guy Denji? Like, main character that doesn't have any redeeming qualities. Why would I watch him? He's kind of pervy, like not really like a character that someone would really like. But then you get to the end of part 1, and it was like, whoa, this shit has a lot of meaning to it. But the meaning is underlying. And sometimes I want to say, am I reaching for the meaning? Maybe. Maybe I'm dissecting a little bit more than I should be. But I mean, I guess our experiences vary with the manga. So it's like really hard to say. This one's a hard one. It's really hard to say for Chainsaw Man, because it's beautifully animated by MAPPA, so I can understand why AG7X prefers the anime, but I don't know if they're saying this because they've also read the manga, and now that they've watched the anime, they're like, whoa, the anime gives a lot more context, and the action is very clear, because in the manga, sometimes the action is not clear at all. Sometimes the story gets a little bit... Actually, why am I saying that? Sometimes the story gets really freaking confusing. So, like, having an anime to go along with Chainsaw Man is fantastic. I'm gonna say that Chainsaw Man is best experienced with both. It's not best experienced, like, as an anime alone. I think that's the very first thing I'll say. If you watch the anime by itself without the manga, which is absolutely crazy, right? Because if an anime adaptation is proper and good, you should be able to give the audience what they're looking for and capture the essence of the story, right? But because of the way Fujimoto Sensei writes, it's really hard for you to do that in one season. Like, you almost have to like animate it on a weekly basis, like a One Piece, and then get all the way to the end of part 1 so people know what this story is. I think that's the easiest way for me to say this. And I'm gonna take a break there so I can read the chat. Let's see here. So Its Motion says, oh, a lot of people prefer the manga, but I think the anime was a great adaptation. Okay, I mean, the anime was really nice. I enjoyed the action scenes. They also added more scenes into Chainsaw Man that weren't in the anime. And the movie that's coming out, which, again, I don't know why it's a movie. Can we just make a season 2? But the movie that's coming out looks really freaking good. I'm actually really excited for this next arc. Mel, put this out thinking it would be a nice 1 hour discussion. Next, you know, it's 3 hours have passed. Yeah, how long are we clocking right now? We're at 1 hour and 37 minutes. I haven't done a live this long before. And I'm not drinking enough water for this. Usually these lives go until 1 hour and a half, and then I'm like, bye guys. But today is a long one. So again, we're locked in, guys. Oh, Joe, yeah, I know you don't really love Chainsaw Man, but I mean, here we are. Monkey D. Jiraiya, I haven't read or watched, but it's on my list. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What happens when you read or watch it? Ben's, so you have watched it. I'm curious if you also have read it, B10s. Shay, I've watched it a little reluctantly. Understandable. Watching Chainsaw Man is an acquired taste. Reading Chainsaw Man is an acquired taste. And reading Fire Punch is painful. If you ever decide to read Fire Punch, have the happiest anime or manga on cue, right after you're done. Yeah. Brittany watched it and read the whole first arc, but dropped it after. See, and I think that's what I'm talking about, Brittany. It's more or less... Chainsaw Man, in a way, feels a little culty because you read part 1 and you say part 1 is freaking amazing. Part 2, you don't know how many times I've read part 2 and I said, I'm not reading this shit anymore. I'm not reading it next week. And then somebody is talking about how great the latest chapter is. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to read it. I need to read it. Oh my God, this latest chapter was so great. I am on board the Chainsaw Man train again. You guys, I think Chainsaw Man has broken my mentality and like my how do I say this? My like habits and structure when it comes to like reading and like watching manga and anime. I don't think like the consumption behavior of like a Chainsaw Man like fan is normal because we go through this like violent secular feeling where it's like I'm on board. I don't want to read this anymore. Oh my god, I love this latest chapter. I'm locked in. Fujimoto sensei, what are you doing? And correct me if I'm wrong for those of you who read because it is literally that for me every freaking week. Anyway, um it's motion. I've only read part 1. I'm waiting for part 2 to finish before I start reading it. I think that's a wise decision. I really enjoyed it, but I can see why people would say it's overhyped. Yeah, I completely agree. Derek, what are your thoughts on the cinematic approach of Saint Chainsaw Man season 1? A lot of people are split, especially after seeing the movie trailer. I mean, I really enjoyed season 1's visuals. The movie looks absolutely stunning. Like Mappa is doing quality work out here. And if they need time to push out Chainsaw Man for that reason, I'll wait. Because the next arc is like a really, really nice, beautiful arc. And that arc, I feel like highlights Denji's struggle a little bit. I want to say, but you know something? It's also been a really long time since I've read part 1. Joel, I haven't watched it, but I picked up the box set because I've heard good things. I did or didn't enjoy the manga up until volume 6. This is about one volume after the anime. Okay. I mean, when people complete the story of part 1 of Chainsaw Man, they usually have a lot of good things to say. That's been my experience. But it is starting to pick up, so I will continue to read. Okay, I mean, Joel, let me know your thoughts. Happy to hear it because I feel like a lot of people are split when it comes to Chainsaw Man, genuinely. Like people who only watch the anime, people who read the manga and watch the anime. Like the consensus is so split that I don't even know what to say anymore, but all I can say is that I best enjoy Chainsaw Man when it's complete and together with the anime and the manga. Let's say that. Is it bad that I like Genji and find him to be funny? I don't think that's bad. I think Denji is supposed to be funny to an extent. Like he's this, I don't know if it's weird to say this, but he's this really tragic character because his life has been absolutely miserable. And his only like real wants in life is to lose his virginity and have a girlfriend and have like warm food and a family. Like his needs and wants are so basic because his life was like absolutely horrendous and miserable. So I can understand like Denji's character to an extent. Yeah, Cyborg, I'm remembering to breathe and drink water because everyone drink water. We're going to start reminding you every 10 minutes to drink water. Please keep reminding me. But I'm starting to remind myself. I'm doing better. Okay? Chainsaw Man is interesting, but I still watch it. Yeah, Shay, it does sound like a cult. The way that I'm describing it, it definitely sounds that way. But you want to know something? When you complete part 1, you will totally understand what I mean. I keep hearing so many mixed things about part 2, but I'm really holding out for it. Is part 2 close to finishing? See, I think that's the hardest part about reading Chainsaw Man is that I can't even tell you where the end is going to start. Because I always feel like we're near the end and then like the story spins into something else. But I feel like we're itching towards the end. And some people have theorized so much crazy stuff on Chainsaw Man that now like I'm invested because I need to see how part 2 ends. Are we getting a part 3? Is this going to connect to other Fujimoto sensei stories? So it's a lot. When you invest in Chainsaw Man, it's almost like you invest in the long run, no matter how much the story spins out of control. That's the most basic way for me to like say this. I've always struggled with massive binge watching and reading. I feel like if I rush through it, I won't appreciate all the small details and lose love for the series. I like to theorize sometimes, be tens. I mean, I can understand that it's nice reading week to week because it gives you time to reflect and think. But like honestly, if you were to read Chainsaw Man and read it week to week, But still know, like have the full story with you in mind. Like you wouldn't know, you wouldn't have to wait until like, hey, the story is done. I think it's best ingested in that form. Like, I don't know if that makes sense. um Nina says to watch and read it. Like, I agree. I think the best way to digest Chainsaw Man is you watch and you read it. It is the absolute best way. One is not better than the other or without the other. um have you read Kagurabachi? I haven't read today's chapter. The only chapter that I read today was Sakamoto Days. Latest Sakamoto Days chapter is absolutely stunning. The story is about to spin out of control. But I will read Kagurabachi once I am done with this live, because I have to read Kagurabachi. I have to read all my Sundays. Brittany, oops, I meant I read all of part one. Yeah, I mean, part one was good. I liked part one a lot. The ending absolutely broke me. Did not see where the story was going. And then the story ended, and I was like, ah, I see what we were doing here now. All right, Derek, do you blame Mugen Train for the trend for of turning canon arcs into movies? Do you want to see more non-canon ones like Spy Family Code White? Yes. This is a long run. This is a stretch. But I am going to say that I absolutely think that Demon Slayer ruined it for us. Ruined it for us fans who like to watch like everything canonical on like our TV screens, on our subscriptions, on Crunchyroll. But at the same time, like, it also brought a new experience where it's like you can watch your favorite canonical anime in IMAX. When I first watched Mugen Train in theaters, I was like, wow, this is absolutely stunning. Obviously, when I saw it that it was on Crunchyroll like a year later, I said, well, why the fuck did I pay money to go watch this? But then I noticed the quality difference in the visuals and how like the ambiance of the theater and IMAX just gave a completely different like color palette that was so much more captivating for like the story of Demon Slayer. I wish that the animation studios didn't say like, oh, this is like a great way to make money now, instead of just selling the license to Crunchyroll and having people watch all of it on their TVs at home. We should try to make some stuff like for the theaters, and then we won't tell them that we're going to release it on streaming services afterwards. I think that they really took that out of control. I kind of blame Demon Slayer for that, but at the same time, I don't think it's entirely bad because it was a beautiful experience for me. Yeah, Monkey Teacher I, latest comment. I watched JJK0 in theaters and it was phenomenal. Best anime experience I've ever had. Yeah, man, I was losing my mind watching JJK0 in the movie theaters. I don't regret watching that in theaters. I thought that like my money was well worth going there. And same for Mugen Train. But the fact that they want to do that with like every anime, like talking about Solo Leveling earlier, they already have it planned. 5 seasons and a movie. Why? Where was I? Yeah, Kagurabachi is really amazing. I love it. Love the way that it's unfolding. It's already moved into my top 10, to be honest. I can't wait to see it unfold. Me, neither. Joel, I blame Mid Slayer. I blame Mid Slayer for making arcs into movies, and it does not help with my opinions on it. Yeah, I do think that they play a heavy role. I'm convinced it might have to pick up. I might have to pick up season 2 real soon. I mean, I would continue to wait. I'm not gonna lie, wait a little bit more on Chainsaw Man. Lewis, where do you read your stuff digitally? So where I read my stuff digitally is on the Manga Plus app. This app is created by Shueisha. Shueisha is the big publishing company in Japan. They publish Shonen Jump and all of the other weekly like shonen. So that's where I read like Kagurabachi. I read One Piece week to week on there. I read Sakamoto Days on there. I was reading Undead Unluck on there until like it ended, wrapped up recently. What else do I read on there? I read Dandadan on there. JJK was on there up until a certain point. And it's completely free to a certain extent. They do have like subscription tiers, like $2.99, kind of like the Shonen Jump app. And like more if you want to access titles that are not currently like active, if that makes sense. Like if it's ended, you have to like pay a subscription to read those. But if you want to read stuff that's like active, like has week to week or month to month, whatever you want to call it, serialized manga from shonen or shueisha as a whole. That's where I read most of my stuff on the Manga Plus app. Where was I? Sorry, Mel. I meant in general. I'm a few chapters behind myself. Yeah. Um. Let's see. All right. Oh, Derek. Yeah. Thanks for joining. Have a good Sunday and rest of your weekend. I feel like movies tend to get more budget too. Movies do tend to get a lot of budget, which I feel like takes away from the rest of the animation budget. I actually don't really understand too much as to the allocation of budget when it comes to like the regular animation, like for TV screen versus like a movie. So I actually would like to learn more about that. It might give me more understanding to like overall like how things get animated, movie releases and like, you know, quality that we get, right? I saw Kuzi Monogatari trilogy in theaters. How was that? I had read the JJK manga from the beginning, so I knew what the movie was about already, but it was great. I mean, that's the best part, right? When you read and then after like you like have done finished reading it and you watch it like animated, if it's still great, I mean, I think that's when you could say an adaptation is doing a good job. Does anyone know when the last My Hero Academia movie is coming out? I don't. I did see like rumblings about that, but I haven't seen much. I read on the Shonen Jump app. Yeah, I feel like Monkey D. Jiraiya, that's like a popular place where most people read. I'm gonna move on from Chainsaw Man though, because I'm completely done with this. But since we're talking about Jujutsu Kaisen, we're gonna move on to Jujutsu Kaisen after I read this one last comment. So, have you read Zenshu? What are your thoughts on it? Zenshu caught me off guard. I thought I was going to drop this after like 3 or 4 episodes, and it really took me by surprise. Zenshu went like this as an anime, right? It started off really slow. I thought it was just going to be like a really pretty animation, original story from MAPPA with like no substance, right? And it's quickly become like really emotional, and I'm really attached now. And the fact that this potentially might end in 2 episodes because the latest episode dropped today. Another thing that I need to do today is watch the latest episode of Zenshu. But where the story has been going and the type of tragedy that it's that it's kind of been building up to be is very like very surprising. I highly recommend Zenshu for anyone who's not watching it. It's probably going to be a short one because it's an original. Most originals are only 12 to 13 episodes. If it gets a second season, that would be kind of cool. But I think this story is meant to close out with 12 to 13 episodes. But I highly recommend. I've been loving the crap out of it. Monkey D. Jiraiya, Zenshu is really good, but I'm not done with it yet. Yeah, I mean, we still have like 2 more weeks, I think, of Zenshu. Mel loves JJK. Yeah, Joe, absolutely love JJK. Joel, can we just skip JJK? Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, I have a lot of feelings about JJK. Mostly it's about the community, not about JJK itself. But I think once the anime is done, because currently I'm anime only, at least I like to pretend that I'm anime only. Unfortunately, I've been quietly reading along with all of you through all the spoilers that have been dropped on the internet. So am I really anime only, question mark? So some people had some stuff to say about JJK. For AG7X, they say they preferred the anime. Curious to hear about your thoughts if you care to comment. Jawa Daddy says that this question immediately brings to mind Jujutsu Kaisen. I haven't completed either the manga or the anime for it, but I'm far enough along to feel that the anime is superior. Typically, I always prefer to read manga or comic books, but in this case, I feel JJK is stronger as an anime. The manga, while enjoyable, feels like a rough sketch of ideas, while the anime brings them together in their strongest form, in my opinion. Yeah, so here's my thing about JJK. Even though people posted spoilers online, and I got the gist as to what was going on, I will be super frank. When I got this comment from Jawa Daddy, I said, you know what? As someone who's not reading the manga, but has been reading quietly along with spoilers. I feel like whenever I see like a panel from the JJK manga, I'm just like, what the fuck is this? This just looks like scribbles. How does anyone know what's going on? The action's very unclear and not really concise. And then you see the anime, right? Like parallels of it, and I'm just like, wow. I feel like Mappa's entire budget goes to Jujutsu Kaisen because they really like killed the animation. So yeah, I'm not really excited about season 3 because JJK as a story as a whole has been so like ruined for me. You ever like have something ruined for you so much so that like you don't even care about the story anymore? Like that's how I feel about JJK. JJK has been ruined for me so many times. I have had to go through hoops of like muting JJK words, muting specific JJK character names just to avoid the ending of JJK. Like I did the most just to avoid the ending of JJK. But at the same time, I'm like, you know what? I really don't care anymore. I'm going to watch season 3 of JJK with the most disdain in my body because that's how I feel. I have multiple physical copies, but the anime for JJK is on another level. Yeah, Mappa said, budget? What's a budget? JJK doesn't need a budget. We can just throw all our money at it. I feel like my sarcasm's on full blast today. I'm sorry, this feels a little bit out of character. This is in character, but a little bit out of character. And I think this is because we've been doing this for like 2 hours now. Brittany, I read it for fear of spoilers, and I have so many conflicted feelings about the story in general. See, and that's the consensus I keep getting. And this is why I said, you know what, spoiler community, you won't have my dignity. I won't read this just because you spoiled it, and I won't read this out of fear. Like, you won't have me. You will not have me. Joel, yeah, the JJK fandom is the second most toxic community after FMAB. Wow, that's deep. I mean, I don't interact with the FMAB community that much, but wow. I thought JJK was the most toxic one out there. Monkey D. Jiraiya, I prefer the manga. I've read the entire thing and the artwork is top tier, but the anime is so good. Huh. Okay. I mean, that's probably the first instance that anyone who's ever talked about JJK to me has told me that they love the artwork. At Joel, I was with you until the second half of your comment. All right then. But yes, as for JJK, this is how I feel about it generally. We don't have to stay on this for too long because, to be honest, I got a lot of feelings about JJK, despite the fact that I have a shirt. If you can see here, this is like the Jujutsu Kaisen symbol. I got this from Uniqlo when I thought like JJK was gonna be my shit, and then the spoilers, and then the ending of season 2, and then like a lot of feelings. You know what I mean? Anyway, we're moving on. But, I feel like we're going to have more feelings here because now we have to talk about Demon Slayer. But we could read the chat a little bit more before I talk about Demon Slayer, and Joe comes full force in the chat about Mid Slayer, right? Why bring up FMAB? I mean, someone had to mention it, right, Joe? Monkey D. Jiraiya, yeah, I'm a big JJK fan, but I don't spoil. I appreciate you. I mean, I'm sure, like, everyone in the JJK community is not a spoiler person. I know that 100%. I know it has to be like a small collective of people that are writing the hype of JJK, or were writing the hype of JJK, and just had to post about it without spoiler warnings. Anyway, yeah. I've read it since the first chapter. I dropped it the same day Luffy beat Katakuri. Yes, shout out to Uniqlo. Uniqlo has wonderful anime wear. Even though not all of their wear is in my size, like this shirt is an extra small. I don't normally wear an extra small. I am normally a small. But unfortunately, things are sized the way that they're sized. I had a feeling this one was coming, says It's Motions. Manga is greater than the anime. Are you referring to JJK, Joe, or Demon Slayer right now? Just look at how you reacted when P moved FMAB. Yeah, that was a great moment. The way that you just dropped your headphones, Joe, Uh, anyway, regardless, its motions, Demon Slayer anime is like 5 leagues above the manga. Interesting. I mean, you could kind of tell by like some of the art style that it's kind of like a little bit rough too. So Deep Iscore from Threads said that for Demon Slayer, I haven't read the whole manga, but I prefer the anime. And AG7 says that Demon Slayer is better as an anime. They enjoy the anime a lot more. So I have to ask for people who keep calling it Mid Slayer, and I know this is something that's going to be debated forever. Do people call it Mid Slayer because they think that the anime has been hyped so highly when the story is just very simplistic, or is it some other reason? Because the first like statement is the vibe that I get from most people. Anime is lower than mid. Wow, a lot of feelings here. You got I don't know if you have more feelings on Demon Slayer than I have on Jujutsu Kaisen, because I have a lot of malice about Jujutsu Kaisen, but this is a whole different collective. You guys are all like one-minded when it comes to the feeling of Demon Slayer. This is actually really interesting. B10s. I loved season 2 of Demon Slayer. Season 2 is my favorite season. Absolutely hands down. I heard, because my husband has read the entire manga of Demon Slayer. I chose not to read it. Sometimes we'll read manga together. Other times I'll be like, you know what, I'm gonna stay anime only. He said that within season 3, the Swordsmith Village, they skipped stuff. And I'm like, oh, I don't like when someone says like they skipped stuff. So regardless, I'm gonna watch the anime till the end, but I might have to read because now they've decided to make this a movie series. So we now have 3 movies that are going to be the end of Demon Slayer. And I don't know how long I'm gonna wait for this to happen, because the first movie comes out in September of this year in the United States and other regions outside of Japan. Japan gets it in July. So I don't know how much my patience like can ride this. You know what I'm saying? So I need to be able to like see this in full. So I'm tempted to pick up the manga like nowish. But I do want to see this like anime full only. So I'm a little bit conflicted right now. Regardless, I like Demon Slayer. I've actually always liked Demon Slayer. And to Ranger's point, I don't understand the simple story statement. I mean, some people I've experienced through discussion sometimes don't enjoy stories that are like very surface level and the amount of appreciation it gets. I think that the amount of something, the appreciation of what something is, shouldn't really affect your opinion. Everyone has like their own opinions of stuff. Like I will hype certain stuff to the moon and back, and people will not share the same opinion as me. As to how much that should affect your opinion shouldn't be like, regarded in that manner. That's how I perceive it. So like if I isolate people's opinions of Demon Slayer from like what Demon Slayer is to me, I genuinely really love it. I have lots of fun with the story. I think the animation is really lovely. I have not read the manga, but personally for me, I'm going to try to stay anime only because it's just a fun story. Yeah. Dragon Ball Z is a pretty simple story. I agree with you, Ranger. Some of the other chatter. There's a lot of mixed opinions on Demon Slayer here that I'm going to need to move on from this, aren't I? I think that the anime's artwork is overrated. Why? Why do you say that, Maki D. Jiraiya? Why is it overrated? I think the anime is great, says Its Motions. Joe Jones, that's exactly why I like Demon Slayer, but the world views it as GOAT when it's not. The anime moves too slow. Really? I mean, I guess coming from someone who like has read the manga, that's really fascinating. I mean, overall, Demon Slayer is a relatively compact story, right? It's, I think, 200 chapters, 200 and change. I want to say it's 225 chapters, but someone correct me if I'm wrong. It's a relatively short story. So I feel like 5 seasons feels appropriate. But again, I haven't read the manga. Maybe there's more substance in the anime that there is the manga, but because I don't have that context, some of the comments about like the manga versus the anime, I'm not sure. Brittany, I'm anime only, but find that it is a flawless execution of shonen battle manga formula. Nothing wrong with it, in my opinion. I mean, I agree. It does it really well. It captivates a mass audience. It's like well animated. The action scenes are super like vivid and dynamic. Demon Slayer is doing well you know, what shonen does in what shonen does. I feel like Demon Slayer manga was rushed towards the end. I mean, I think that if we're getting 3 movies for the end, this hopefully won't be rushed, right? Joel, people be acting like it's the best thing since sliced bread. I think it sounds like most of people's opinions about like Demon Slayer is the fact that there's a popular opinion and the popular opinion doesn't match their opinion and it makes them feel negatively about the anime. That's like the vibe that I'm getting, but you guys could correct me if I'm wrong. Um, hmm. Yeah, it's the fans that ruin it, says B10s. Oh my god. It's motions. I was invested in Demon Slayer from the first episode, and then when episode 4 happened, I thought that this was going to be a really good anime. Yeah, I mean, I agree. That was the same train I was on. I mean, I'm still on the train. Um, I read the manga within a week and was so disappointed in the anime. Monkey D. Jiraiya. Wow, okay. Cowboy Bebop is pretty simple, and my favorite anime says It's Motions. All rom-com is simple, says Ranger. Cowboy Bebop is my shit motions. People that don't agree with you are crazy. Even if I have a few things I disagree with you on. I mean, people don't have to agree with me on everything. I have some very unique opinions on stuff. I don't mind a simple story at all, says Joe. I watch isekai. Yeah, most isekai are pretty simple, pretty surface level. Ranger says, yeah, Demon Slayer blows through the story crazy fast. Wow. You know, there's new things that's coming to light to me about Demon Slayer, but I appreciate no one spoiling it for me to an extent. B10s, I would pick up the manga. It sounds like I really need to. Shay, I've read Demon Slayer the manga and don't see how the anime is moving slow. They were closely following the manga up until the Swordsmith village arc. Yeah, I mean, that's the same thing I've heard from my husband. Animation, the anime and the story were very like in parallel. And then the Swordsmith village, they actually truncated it a bit. They took out some of the Mist Hashira story. That's what I've heard. I hope they don't censor in the movies. It gets pretty bloody. I mean, that's the hope. Joel, and mid is not bad. It's like 5 out of 10. I mean, 5 out of 10 sounds bad to me. 5 out of 10 is really low, man. Not for me. Didn't care about the fans. I really love the manga. The anime just isn't it. All right, Monkey D. Jirai. I can understand. It sounds like people are very split on anime versus manga, which is really cool to see. I mean, if there was like a company out there that just did like focus group research on anime and manga, I would find it extremely fascinating, and I'd love to read a report on that just because I love data and science. B10s, the same thing happened with MHA. And I guess this is a good time to move on to My Hero Academia now because we spent a little bit too long on Demon Slayer for my liking. 5 out of 10 is really bad. Kiara X, I really wanted more from Zenitsu. I honestly, that's the only thing I'm looking forward to at the end of this. I heard some really good stuff about Zenitsu because people hate his character, but to be super frank, I find him like really funny and like comedic relief. That's just me. Good kid gameplays. This was one of them ones where the show was so good I had to finish the manga. I think I've gotten up to that point that I'm gonna have to read the manga. It is what we would say is I'm not going to be able to pronounce that, Joel, in Sweden. If I get the time to learn Swedish, maybe I'll like pick up the pronunciation on that. I'm going to have to like copy paste and like look that up later. MHA manga is really good. Kara X, like backstory, level up, and all that. Yes, all right, here we are. We're at My Hero Academia. This is another one that I do not read, okay? I got into it as anime only. My husband also reads this one. But, I was like, I'm going to stay anime only on this. This one definitely took some time for me personally to get invested in because the beginning is very slow. So here's what some people had to say about MHA. Deep Discourse says that as for MHA, I think the art in the manga is better, but I love the way that season 7 looked. And AG7X similarly said that they prefer the manga over the anime. So for those of you out there who would like to shed your light and love on, I guess, My Hero Academia, whether it's the manga or the anime, please let me know. I only watch the anime. I have always found the art style that Bones does for like My Hero Academia to be really nice. I will say that obviously since My Hero Academia first started in 2016, right? 2016, 2017, that the artwork, like in the anime, has improved over the years. In the beginning, it wasn't like that fantastic that I would be saying like, I love it, you know, but in season 7 and season 6 specifically, I thought like the animation was absolutely stellar. As to before that, can't really say or comment. Monkey D. Jiraiya, I started MHA manga and I'm not far into it. I have like 30 things I'm trying to read at once. Story of my life. Story of my life. Agree that the art in the manga is better, says Kiara X. I mean, that makes me feel like once I finish watching My Hero Academia, because the next season is the last season, I might want to pick up the manga. Because as we all know, Vigilantes is starting this spring. Like it's dropping like April 7th or something like that. And I've actually always wanted to read that. But you know, now that it's starting, maybe I'll read it in tandem with the anime. Because I assume that if most of you really like the artwork for MHA, that the artwork is the same for Vigilantes? Question mark. Good Kid gameplay. For me, it's both. They did really well on capturing specific things in the manga. Kiara X, it has the art style similar to my favorite drawn manga, which is Dead Man Wonderland. Okay, interesting. Joel, it really translated to between milk. Not good, not bad. AKA mid. That's a really interesting like phrasing of things. Brittany, I really enjoyed the manga and the anime of MHA and lean towards the anime simply because battles are harder to follow in manga for me. I mean, I understand that. One of the hardest things about reading shonen in general or just action manga in general is action panels, right? It doesn't always translate well panel to panel because it's still imagery. And animation is supposed to help highlight that better. But you know, there are some manga out there that do action really well. Not always many, but some few. Monkey D. Jiraiya, I have heard good things about the Vigilantes manga. B10 says the manga has better still images. Okay, interesting. I mean, I'm seeing here for some of the examples that I've like tried to capture, like this one with Shigaraki, like it looks really good. Like it looks kind of ominous and creepy, like not something that I would get from like the mangaka of My Hero Academia, but I actually was reading recently that the mangaka of My Hero Academia is already working on their next manga, and it might potentially be like a horror or something like that, or like a thriller or suspense or something of that nature, because they actually really like to draw in that style. So seeing like Shigaraki here and hearing like that about the mangaka makes me wonder, you know, there's like a nuance to his art style based on his interest. But yeah, I mean, I don't personally have a lot to say on My Hero Academia only because I don't have manga experience. It's really interesting to hear about your experiences and why I'm very glad y'all are here in the chat with me as I walk through some of these examples, because a lot of people had different suggestions, a lot of different inputs, and it's really cool to see like how people vary across the universe in terms of like experiences with manga, with anime, or both. B10s, I've always loved MHA since episode 30. I've never fallen off. Yeah, there was a point in MHA where the switch flicked. Like it turned on, for lack of better words. And it was like, I'm locked in all the way. I had that feeling. I don't know when that was, but I had that feeling. Joel, yeah, I would need 30 minutes to explain good because it's hard to translate directly from Swedish to English. I mean, it sounds like I have more languages to learn, I think. All right, moving on. All right, so these are some one-off mentions. I think we're in the final stretch here, so maybe we'll be done before 3 hours, everybody. Like, fingers crossed. So some other anime that lots of other people mentioned, This one is from Final Boss Comics. Final Boss Comics is actually, so for those of you who don't know, I live in the Northeast. There's a comic book store within like my region that I went to go visit one day. I met the owner of the store. This is the owner. Really cool dude. Had like mostly comics, like DC Comics and stuff like that, but they had a collection of manga there as well. And I bought a copy of Life Lessons with Uromichi Onisan there because I really love it. But anyway, so what they have to say is Great Teacher Onizuka is probably my favorite of those because I watched the anime first, then I watched the manga, then I read the manga, then I watched the J drama. Didn't even know this had a J drama, Japanese drama. The anime, 60% comedy, 40% drama, will always be my preferred because you get the most emotion from it. But the J drama, Japanese drama, 40% comedy, 60% drama, will make you tear up with raw emotion they throw in. I always try to do manga that's like 50 comedy, 50 drama, last because it's like the director's cut, and I feel like you're getting a behind the scenes look at everything. All right. Let's see here. Go for 4, Mel. We're not going for 4 Monkey D. Jiraiya. It's Sunday, my guy. Given was me. Oh, this is you. Okay, wonderful. Yes. So Rambles in Brittany says that I've read and watched Given. So I've only watched Given. I've seen the first season, and I think I've seen the OVA. I'm not sure if it's an OVA. I know the movie is still not out in the States, so grain of salt and all that. And I have complicated thoughts on this topic. I love the first season incorporates the omakes, which is extras, as just part of the story. Some feel integral and like they shouldn't have been omake, but in the chapters themselves, to be honest. Hiragi crying to Shizu after talking to Mafuyu post-show, for example. And of course, the music makes such a huge difference in how the story hits. But then the movies get weird about it. The OVA of the scenes that didn't fit in the first movie and the second cutting scenes to use them as clips to show in theaters, Japan only, kind of make their own omake. It all felt odd. I still love them, of course, but some weird decisions were made. Personally, I think the impact of the music makes watching the anime first worth it, then reading the manga for missed details in the omake that didn't get included or are just goofy and funny. Yeah, this one is a really serious one. Not a lot of funny moments, so that's interesting to see, like, hear about the omakes, Brittany, if that's what I'm getting from this. And, like, personally, like, I don't think I could imagine reading this as a manga just due to the fact that music seems to have a very heavy impact in Given. Just like the new anime that's coming out. What is it? The guy that she was interested in wasn't a guy, or the girl that she... something like that. I can't remember the title, but it's the Green Yuri manga that's now getting an anime. And music is like a big part of that story. So I haven't read the manga yet. I've been dying to read the manga, but haven't had time. It's just one of those that's been sitting on my list. But I can't even imagine to be able to read Given and still grasp like the same level of emotion just because of how much music plays into Given. B10s. They did skip some backstory for the villains. Perfect day for it. No, Monkey Jiraiya, Sunday is not the perfect day for a 4-hour stream. I mean, look, let's see how long we go, right? We're not putting any restrictions on this, but we're just having fun with it, right? We're just going. All right, so this next one is from Atias, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. This is a YouTube subscriber, so everybody knows, I posted a question on Instagram, posted a question on Threads, and I posted a question on YouTube posts and just asked people how they felt about any stories that they've read the manga and watched the anime for, and like what their experiences were for it, right? So this one came from a YouTuber. They said one title that I read was Giji Harem, and that translates into pseudo harem. This anime came out, I think, like in 2019. It's a rom-com. So Giji Harem manga was more completed version of the story. Some chapters were not adapted in the anime. Giji Harem's anime strength compared to the manga because of its voice acting. The girl main character was able to impersonate many stereotypical harem girls, like tsundere girl, modest girl, young sister girl. And I actually read a little bit of the synopsis of this. I haven't watched it, so if someone's watched it, please give me more context. But pseudo harem is basically about this girl, And this guy, right? This girl has like mad chops acting skills, and she pretends to be all these different girls, I think, and builds this harem for this sleepy ass guy that's here in the photo. Okay. And this person continues to say, and Sayori Hayami is a very capable voice actress. Gave life to these harem girls. Their voice intonation and tone, thumbs up for her. So their conclusion is that while the manga is a more complete version, the anime may improve the manga story, but it doesn't adapt all of the manga chapters. I have not watched this, but I am tempted to watch this after this person's description because I do love Sayori Hayami's voice. I believe this is the same person that does like Yamato's voice in One Piece. I believe they also do Yor's voice from Spy Family, like off the top of my head, very popular anime, right? Going back to the chat, Brittany, the music is truly so important for Given, and we're so lucky to getting a full adaptation. Yeah, going back to Given, again, I can't imagine like this story without the music. Lewis, Pseudo Harem was so wholesome. Think it came out last year, not in 2019. Okay. I mean, look, I think that this is something that I want to watch based on what this person has described it and what you guys are saying. Rom-com is my vibe. And then if it's wholesome too, I'm in. So, I mean, you could probably look out for me saying something about this sometime this year if I can get it pushed up on my watch list. Giji Harem is so good. Drama kids fall in love. So yeah, that's what I heard. Like the main female character, she's like a drama, like theater person, like has really good acting skills. And that's kind of what kicks off like this story, right? Lewis, I haven't read the manga, but basically the girl acts out different personalities. The romance also goes past high school and drives into college. Ooh, okay. I think I kind of like that because then that means that we're not locked in this like stereotypical high school romance thing. You gotta watch Giji Harem. It's a great watch. I mean, you've convinced me. Maybe I'll take some time to watch today. All right, next couple few. So we have Tokyo Ghoul. I think Tokyo Ghoul is kind of popular when people think about like anime versus manga, just because I think when we enter like Tokyo Ghoul Re is where the story starts to change a lot from what I've heard. I have not read the manga, but I've heard quite a bit about the changes. And what I will say is that when the story starts to pivot, I think into Tokyo Ghoul Re, is where personally as an anime only watcher, I said I was confused a lot. That's the only thing I can really say. And that's what makes me want to say like I should read the manga for this, because why did this get so confusing, right? So this person, Angie Gonzila, says that I'm coming in this with like a likely controversial take since I've been informed by half the internet I'm wrong. But I immediately think of Tokyo Ghoul. I watched the anime first and absolutely loved it. It quickly became one of my favorites. Then I had a million internet strangers tell me I should hate it, and if I read the manga, I'd understand. So I read the manga, came to the conclusion that they were actually wrong, at least in my perspective. The anime deviated severely from the manga after season 1. But I think that the opportunity to see this as two different versions of the story was missed because there's an expectation that the anime should be a shot-for-shot replica of the manga. And to an extent, I agree. But I don't think that deviating from that makes the anime automatically bad. All that being said, I do prefer the manga by a large margin because the art is phenomenal. But I still love the anime and will defend it forever. Okay, so her thoughts on this are like the same thoughts I kind of have on Promised Neverland, which is up here as well. So Mr. Music Major says that the Promised Neverland. And they also mentioned Dandadan as well. And honestly, so far, I'm enjoying reading Dandadan more than watching it. So as many people know, and we could talk about this in tandem, the Promised Neverland also heavily deviated from the manga, and they basically ended the story with season 2. They took like a bit of the end of the manga and incorporated it to the end of the anime, but the whole like basically the filling, the sandwich in between got like taken out, like completely taken out for Promised Neverland. And when people ask me about season 2 of Promised Neverland, which us manga readers will say does not exist and we swear it doesn't exist, after a certain point, I started to really reflect and say, hey, if I had never read the story of Promised Neverland, how do I actually feel about the anime? Personally, I think it was a little bit rushed. It felt very fast. And the ending was anticlimactic. But as an anime, like as a whole, I didn't hate it. I didn't think it was horrible. I didn't think it was bad. But I do think that like the manga is a much more fulfilling story. That's what I will say. The manga is a much more fulfilling story, and I think what made manga readers upset about The Promised Neverland is that the sandwich piece between that they removed completely from Promised Neverland. One of the best arcs of the story, the Goldie Pond arc, is absolutely stellar, stellar, stellar. Stellar. Like it is the most gravitating piece of work within that whole manga. And it is like the most eerie, like it's what makes Promised Neverland the eeriest that you'll ever see it. Like if you thought the beginning was creepy, if you thought the beginning was eerie, this arc, the Goldie Pond arc, is the best freaking arc in The Promised Neverland. And I think that's why people were so upset about The Promised Neverland. I think if you watch the story isolated, I don't think it's bad. But if you come with knowledge of being a manga reader and then you watch this, then you're going to be upset. And I think that goes back to Angie Gonzalez's point of like seeing it as two separate stories. And that's why like when it comes to manga and manga exposure, when you have exposure to both, sometimes it becomes really hard for you to separate them as two different pieces of art. And I do think that we as an audience don't know creators' intentions when it comes to adaptations. So sometimes when it comes to like us like wanting to be critics of it, we really don't know the behind the scenes of it. So sometimes even I myself have to check myself and be like, oh, I really hated this. But I'm like, wait, do I really understand the intention of the creator? And also, like, was there a reason that it was done this way? And if I didn't know what I knew, how do I actually feel about this? So, like, there's a couple of different variables that I feel like affects our mindset sometimes when we, like, try to compare manga to anime. So there's so many different things that, like, can be said here. Like, obviously, I've made comparisons between Sakamoto Days anime and the manga. And sometimes I have to really, like, box them. I box them in each corner and be like, all right, so how do I feel about them separately as entities? Are they both still good to me? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so yeah, like I think someone said, Tokyo Ghoul manga is so fire. I need to pick it back up. I have had it on my read list for a very freaking long time. But as time moves on and more manga gets created, I keep reading more things and then older stuff gets pushed down the list. I hate it, but it just happens. Joel is The Promised Neverland and Tokyo Ghoul worth picking up? I mean, absolutely. I think so, at least for The Promised Neverland. Promised Neverland's a very short story. I think it's well worth it, especially just to read the Goldie Pond arc. The Goldie Pond arc is like absolutely like just a stellar piece of work within like the whole story of The Promised Neverland. I think if I read Goldie Pond kind of like on its own, I would be happy, completely happy. Joe, Promised Neverland manga is an absolute masterpiece. Season 2 is not part of the series. See what I mean? Yeah, manga fans are just like, season 2? What's season 2? We only have like season 1 of Promised Neverland. Joe Jones, like rushed and things don't make sense. But yes, Goldie Pond. If I have to say anything about The Promised Neverland, it's that one Goldie Pond arc is a must read in the whole entire story. How do you take the piece out of the series? Make it make sense. I mean, again, it goes back to like, why did they do it, right? Like, that's the best question. Why did they do that? I heard that they were trying to like go for a different type of iteration of the story, but like as to the intentions behind it, like, I don't know. It's Motions, that's facts. I read Promised Neverland and they skipped the best part. It's Motions, I was anime only before that, and season 2 made me so confused because it felt like they skipped stuff. Yeah, I mean, like, that's how I feel about Tokyo Ghoul. I don't think Tokyo Ghoul was bad. I love Tokyo Ghoul. Tokyo Ghoul was so great. I think that like with Promised Neverland, I got that feeling, the same feeling as Tokyo Ghoul. Like, the first 2 seasons were really freaking good, and then at some point I was like, why do I feel like I missed something? When a story starts to get like convoluted to the point where the audience feels confused and it feels like you missed like a major plot of the story, and then you go back and you rewatch and you're like, yeah, but I didn't miss something, but it still feels like something's missing, is when people start to go like digging into materials. And that's where we sometimes end up at the manga and we're like, something's different here, right? At least that's like my thought process. Joel, the Promised Neverland has a box set, so maybe I'll get it. Yeah, I mean, any way that you can read it, it's a really good read. It's motion, same with Tokyo Ghoul. I really like Tokyo Ghoul up until he became part of the police. Yes, that is literally the part that I was like, I'm confused. Someone explain to me what I missed. All right, but yeah, one more on here, Haikyuu. So LF24 says, Haikyuu, so far everything's been amazing with the anime adaptation. My only worry is when we get to the end parts, will they have enough time to get everything in? Because Hinata in Brazil was a vibe. But normally I check in with the manga for animes. I've seen just to fill in the cracks of what I may have missed, or if there's deeper lore to what the anime adaptation shows normally is. So this is another one that's been a very long time on my read list. When I saw that, and for those of you who've been watching Haikyuu has seasons that come few and far in between, like they're sporadic. And then at some point last year, they were like, okay, we're gonna finish the story with movies. I was like, what? That doesn't make sense to me. Why? And again, we talked about this earlier, but this whole movie thing is really killing us fans because we want to see a proper adapted story from the manga, especially when you have a great love for the manga. You want to see it nicely and fully adapted without it being rushed. And I feel like when there's a tendency to include canonical movies into the formula, especially towards the end, things get rushed. Even though I haven't read the manga for Haikyuu, I share very similar concerns to LF24 because from what I understand, not really a spoiler, there's supposed to be like a time skip in Haikyuu. Are they going to capture that time skip in like the next movie or two? Because I heard it's only supposed to be three movies. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like, I want to see that time skip because I've been very emotionally invested in Haikyuu. Monkey D. Jiraiya, so going back to the Promised Neverland has been on my read list forever and I haven't started it. I mean, look, that story is really short, so I think you have time for it. If you push that down on your list, I think you'd be okay. There's just so much to consume out there. It's really hard to prioritize. It's motions. I love the Haikyuu anime, and I'm an anime only. I'm kind of worried that there is only one more movie because I'm really wondering how they will end this series after just one movie. Yeah, I think that's the biggest concern. It's like a big concern. Even as an anime only, I think you could find it a little bit glaring that one or two movies to end like a series is not like the vibe. And it feels like they kind of said like, oh, well, we've been trying to animate Haikyuu for a while now, since like 2016, I think, maybe even earlier, maybe 2014. I don't remember when it first started. But because it's been so far in between, they said, all right, we really need to wrap this up. How are we going to do this? Well, the best way that we can do this is movies. This is just purely speculation. Purely speculation. Everything I could be saying is a complete lie. But it really gives that impression because, like, I feel like there's more substance to this. This can't be it. Joel can't find Haikyuu in dub. If I pick it up, it'll probably be the manga. Yeah, so I have a friend who got into Haikyuu, and they also had to stop at some point because they couldn't find the rest of the dub. And they've been like waiting for the dub for like quite a few things. I feel like there's just been like some production issues with Haikyuu. That's the impression that it gives because like seasons few and far in between, like dubbing for like the first one or two seasons, but no dubbing for like season 4 or something like that. Like it's been very inconsistent. I don't know what's dubbed up until this point anymore because it's kind of just been really sporadic. Lewis, 2 now because the first is out of the 3 was the Nekoma match. Yeah, so we should be getting 2 more movies as I understand it too. Joel just watched the sub. Nothing better than the original Japanese sub. I mean, some people just prefer what they prefer. Like sometimes sometimes like the Japanese don't sound so great. Sometimes the dub sounds better. I mean, we all have preferences at the end of the day, but it I think it's going to be hard to find the dub just because I personally feel like there've just been like production issues with Haikyuu as a whole, that we've been getting material like just over large periods of time, that we can't get like consistent releases in the same languages and formats. It's kind of crazy, right? Um but anyway, so fingers crossed on Haikyuu. I really think that there's a missed opportunity here to really do like 1 or 2 seasons for Haikyuu, but the studio decided what they decided, and I hope that we don't have to suffer as fans. All right, are these like my last two? I probably have like 2 to 4 more. All right, so the Recovering Elitist says Claymore manga is greater than the anime. This is one I have not touched because I've seen clips of it. It gives lots of gore. I don't know how many times I've said it on here, but I hate gore. I can't watch like super extremely bloody anime, so I haven't. But so many people have told me to just read the manga instead because one, it only got 1 season. And it's been a long time since that first season came out, right? So people who saw that first season were quite upset that it didn't get more because it sounds like this is a popular series. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know when I'm getting stuffy all of a sudden. It's motions. I just felt an earthquake. Wow. Stay safe, please. I hope it wasn't like really bad, and I hope that you're home and you are in safe condition, okay? Monkey Teacher Raya, I can't stand the dubs. They are terrible. Oh my god, but there are a few good dubs like Yu Yu and Ghost Stories. Ghost Stories dubbed is legendary. It that thing should low-key be illegal because some of the like lines that they have in that are absolutely crazy, but we're not gonna talk about that. Joel, I can find the Spanish dub, but not the English. That's crazy. There's a Spanish dub for Haikyuu, but there's no English dub. The actors in America must have just been like, ugh, we don't have the resources. We can't pay the old voice actors. Let's just forget about it. Ranger, yeah, Claymore manga is better. They changed the ending. Joel, from what I've heard, Claymore is the female Berserk. See, Berserk is another one that I don't read because I don't think I can handle Berserk. So personally for me, that's why like both of them are off the table. But I am more apt to read like Claymore just because she kind of looks badass and I kind of want to see what that's about. So when I get the courage, somebody give me the courage. I'll read it. It's motions. I have Claymore on my reading list. Yes, it's very quietly sitting on my reading list as well. Ranger, Joel, yeah, like super, super short, like 12 episodes is the whole manga. Wow, they tried to adapt the whole manga in 12 episodes? That sounds crazy. Okay, Jiraiya, Ghost Stories is legendary AF. The voice actors wanted to see how far they could go before the studio stepped in, but they never did, so they took it to the extreme. Yeah, no, they did. They went out of control with it. Brittany, there is an English dub for Haikyuu, but it's only available on the high seas now for some bizarre licensing reason. That is really crappy. You want to know what I think happened with that? That must have been like a Funimation like Crunchyroll error, where you like when they merged, some like dubbed licensing got lost in the ether and it was never to be seen again. Just like some anime got lost in the ether, never to be seen again. That merger was like good and bad in so many different ways. Claymore is dope. Def the female Berserk. Wow. B10's never gotten to Berserk. B10, yeah, I heard it's super intense. You and I are in the same boat. Like, I don't think I can touch Berserk, but I feel like at some point I'm just gonna do it just because I'm now very curious. So this is another one I actually don't watch just because, in our household, between my husband and I, when we watch a show that we don't like enough, or when we watch a show that's at least a couple hundred episodes deep and we say it's not worth it anymore, we take the other words, like the other person's like word for value. So after my husband's watching of many episodes of Black Clover, he said it's not worth it. So I never picked it up. So Yoli Storytime says Black Clover. The anime took a hit, but the movie was a fantastic story and arts are going strong. Catching up. Monkey D. Jiraiya, just like season 1 of Mushishi. Mushishi is on my watch and read list. This is like another one that's like, I really wanna, but then because I watch so much, it gets lost on my list. And I hate that it gets lost on my list. It makes me kind of sad. Brittany, what a true shame. It took the Haikyuu English dub down with it. Yeah, I mean, that's my hypothesis because most before the Funimation Crunchyroll merger, if you wanted to watch anything dubbed, Funimation was the company that specialized in dubbing, right? That's how I remember Funimation, even though it hasn't been that long since they've merged. But because Funimation doesn't exist as a singular entity by itself, Crunchyroll now needs to like uptake more on dubbing, which they are for newer shows. But I think they've forgotten about the other ones personally. Because why would you go backwards when they're producing so much more anime now more than ever? So now they have to get more talent, more resources for dubbing. So I feel like it may have spun out of control at some point. Monkey D. Jiraiya. Okay, so just to start, Black Clover manga is fire. So would you say like Black Clover manga is a better experience than the anime? Do you enjoy both together? Because it sounds like the anime was but the movies were really good. If you find Fire Punch a bit much, Berserk is not it. Yeah. Fire Punch was a lot for me, emotionally. Very much, a lot. I have not read Fire much, but from what I have heard. Yeah, Fire Punch is like the most I can take. For anyone who has read Fire Punch, this is my gauge level. If it is any more crazy or gruesome or like just much more than Fire Punch, if you can understand what I mean, I likely will not be able to digest any of the material and keep my sanity. It starts slow, but god damn it, it picks up and it picks up fast and it doesn't stop. I assume that you're talking about Black Clover, Monkey D. Jiraiya. Ranger, you know how Black Clover is good? It was scheduled for 12 episodes and ran for 180. I mean, that's a good point. I'm sure like Black Clover gets a lot of love. It's just really interesting like how in this particular comment, like they emphasize that the movie was really, really good, that the art is good, but like the anime took a hit, which I don't understand without context, but it's very interesting context, both from this comment and from your comments to hear like about Black Clover. Season 1 is missing on Crunchyroll, but I've started rereading recently. The art is amazingly good for Mushishi. Okay. Manga and anime were great. And that's what Ranger says. And then Monkey D. Jiraiya, they are both good, but they both start off slow. And it picks up pretty fast and doesn't stop. But Def got through the first little slow hump in the beginning. Okay, I mean, that kind of sounds like MHA for me personally, because MHA is a little bit slow in the beginning, and then it really escalates from there. Joel, personally, I think that the Black Clover anime is better than the manga, but I have read the manga after the anime, so I can't say much. Yeah, I can understand that. I feel like I said earlier, it's really hard to like separate the two, Like you want to compare them, but then sometimes they're very separate, but then sometimes they're better together. It's like, I don't know. Like this whole like live, all these submissions and like hearing from you all is starting to like really change how I want to like perceive manga and anime as separate entities and then as companion partners. Like sometimes they can be really good companion partners, other times they're just better by themselves. Like it's really interesting how like all of this is like also I'm learning things. Let's say that I'm learning things. B10s. Did you find Attack on Titan hard to enjoy in the beginning because of the gore? No, actually. I felt like the gore, like I dismissed the gore completely because I was more shocked by the storyline. Does that make sense? Like the storyline shocked me much more than the gore. At some point, the gore did get to me a little bit, but like I was able to mentally sidestep it because I was more engaged in like the story itself, like where the Titans were coming from, what the deal was, why Aaron was able to become a Titan. Like I was invested more in that, and the gore was like less part of the story for me. I don't know if that makes sense. Monkey D. Jiraiya. The context for Black Clover anime falling off is that the anime stopped at episode 180 ish. And it's been years because they caught up to the manga and had to wait for the manga to get ahead. Ah, interesting. Okay. So there was like a Bleach instance, basically. And they decided not to have fillers, which is good, right? But then you go on hiatus and it makes a lot of people confused. I just think that it's hard to follow the fights with all the magic in the manga. Okay. I mean, like other people have said, sometimes it's hard to follow certain action in manga, and sometimes it's just best animated. Monkey D. Jiraiya, the mangaka, had some health issues, so some of the chapters came slow, and then he left Weekly Shonen Jump and went to a monthly release with Jump gigs instead of weekly. Wow. Yeah, that could change things quite a lot. I wonder if that's why recently, because I've seen promotion for movies around Black Clover and less talk around the anime, like the serialized, like episode to episode anime itself. All right. This, I believe, is the last slide. And we are currently clocking at 2 hours and 45 minutes. So if you're still here, thanks for being here because this has been the longest live that I have ever done by a mile and a half. Yeah? So thanks for everyone's input. Thanks for still being here. I appreciate all of you chiming in the chat because honestly, I feel like these lives are much more excitable because you all are here. So I appreciate it 100%. I feel like I would be a little bit more bored and this live would have ended an hour ago if you weren't all here. A couple other comments came in. Have you read or watched Fairy Tale? No, I haven't because the internet has created so many opinions around Fairy Tale that if I tried to watch it, my opinions of it would be completely jaded trying to pull that out, but I don't know if Fairy Tale is happening for me. Those are one of those it's one of those stories that I'm like, you know what? I think I'm okay with not watching this right now because there's so much other stuff that I'm enjoying and again, prioritization. Um Monkey D. Jiraiya, his release has been very erratic. Like he dropped 3 in August, 3 in November, and then like 2 in December, and then like 3 in January. I mean, I'm sure that being a mangaka, as we've seen, is very hard. How many times have we seen Oda take a break? Dandadan has been taking larger breaks lately because they were so consistent week to week that they just had to be like, look, I'm taking a month break. We had like a month of chapters, then they took another month break. I mean, I can't imagine how strenuous this is. Um, I think we will maybe get an announcement about Black Clover anime in like 2 weeks. Okay, interesting. Very curious to see like how they continue that. Ranger, wow, Super Gals. Yeah, so actually I've never heard of Super Gals before. Ritz X255 brought up Super Gals. They said gals or Super Gals. Very much prefer the manga. Season 1 of the anime is great, pretty faithful from what I remember, but season 2 diverges too much and doesn't have a proper conclusion. Also, the anime rivals they added in season 2 are very obnoxious. I don't know if anyone else has heard of Super Gals. I have never heard of Super Gals. I feel like there's a lot of anime that is like a little bit older that because like most of us grew up watching anime on like Adult Swim, there was like limited exposure, right, to what we knew as anime. And then as the years went on, we got more exposure because we had an expansive catalog now. We have Crunchyroll, we have Netflix, we have Tubi that has like anime for free now. We have High Dive. Like I can't even tell you how many platforms like you can watch anime on legally. Let's just say legally, because the high seas and the seven seas has many more. So it was really interesting to see something that I've actually never ever seen before, never ever heard of before, being brought up and seen in this context. So now I'm actually kind of curious about like Super Gals. Um, yeah, wow, Super Gals. Yes. Never heard of it. um, I don't think so. The manga is close to finishing. I think they'll wait until the end. Um, Thanks, Lewis. I appreciate it. I will pat myself on the back. This has been a really long live, you guys. I have never done anything like this before, so again, appreciate you. And I, honest to God, after this, I'm going to binge the hell out of the Sunday manga, catch up on weekend anime, and like take a nap. Nap is like really calling me right now. Um, David jumped back just in time. So many options if you look. Yes, there are so many options out there. This came out in 2001, Ranger. Holy crap. Wow, that's a serious throwback. I don't even know how old I was in 2001. All right, so this is the very last one. Again, thank you all for sticking with me. Thanks, Monkey Z Jiraiya. It has been really fun. I appreciate it. So this last one is actually 3, but it came in one comment. So Super Dave 9 says that my top 3 are Full Metal Alchemist, Ghost in a Shell, and Mushishi, which a couple of people have been mentioning here in the chat already. I prefer the manga for FMA with the first anime. So for those of you who remember, we got a first iteration of Full Metal Alchemist that came out in 2003, right? That one didn't really follow the manga faithfully, so they redid it to follow the manga more faithfully, and that's how we got Full Metal Brotherhood. And this is mentioned here prior to Full Metal to Brotherhood. So now I prefer the anime versions for all 3, although it's close with Mushishi since there are a lot of chapters not animated yet. I mean, this is like, I feel like we're in an era where we have a potential to get things either reanimated or continued because we've been seeing stuff happen like that. Like Hanakimi is a really old, like, not really old, it's like early 2000s manga, but it's getting an anime this or next year. Like, absolutely mind-blowing. Blue Exorcist coming back with 2 or 3 seasons after like many years of a hiatus. Obviously, Bleach is like staple, like, title for massive comeback after being canceled. So it would be nice to see like Mushishi like continued and like to be animated, but I wonder if it takes like a few voices and a lot of people talking about it to generate like, you know, buzz to be like, hey, Crunchyroll, can you like pick this back up and get a studio to like do this? But you know, that's something that we could discuss another time. Maybe that's another live where there are season 1 seasons, 2 seasons that we'd love to see reanimated. I obviously would love to get suggestions from you all again because I feel like that's like the funnest part when I'm able to get suggestions from you all, understand like what like not triggers you but engages you and how like these experiences like make you all feel because we all have different experiences at the end of the day, right? So before I close this out, let me read through some of the comments and then we're gonna end this nice and roundly, probably around 3 hours. So B10s, how do you take in others' opinions when it comes to starting new anime and manga? Something I feel like I miss out on. Something I might enjoy just because of a few negative reviews. I mean, it really depends. I try to like read up on stuff too. I read up on the context of the anime. I try to also like read the synopsis. There's just some anime that I don't partake to as well. Like I'm not a huge fan of the isekai only because it's gotten oversaturated. So if I get recommended an anime that's in an isekai, I might be a little bit more skeptical just because it's not my favorite. I've been watching like shonen anime for a very long time. So I think when it comes to shonen, I tend to also be a little bit more selective about shonen now because there's just too much of it. And I really want to diversify. If you've seen a lot of stuff on my channel, then you know that like I prefer the comedy, the romance, the slice of life. So whenever it comes to romance, comedy, slice of life, and somebody suggests it, I'm really quick to pick that up just because it's a preferred genre. When it comes to action, I feel like now it needs to have a particular flavor for me to want to pick that up. And that's just because there's just too much anime out there. If I took the time to literally watch and read everything, I probably wouldn't be able to do my job. I probably wouldn't be able to like take care of household duties and manage like my relationships with friends and my husband. You get what I'm saying? So I think we can all understand and sympathize that like watching so many and having to be selective just based on our preferences and sometimes by what other people say is just a tactical choice in like taking up things. Yes, I will be taking my nap. I will be putting my feet up. That's awesome that you finished editing your podcast. I look forward to that when you start that up again. Yeah, Mushishi got in there. I mean, I think that's like one that I need to really just lock into and sit down because I've heard so many good things and it looks like my vibe. I just haven't had the time to like lock it down. Like every season, for full context, whenever like there's a new season that comes out and I'm working on my spring 2025 video stuff I'll be watching, I've already got 10 anime on my list, 11 anime on my list that I'm going to be watching. Like it's hard for me to then incorporate like older anime that's already finished airing. And then on top of that, there's like 30 different manga that I'm reading on a weekly basis. My husband asks me how I make the time, and I'm like, I really don't know. I just sit down and read. I find the time, but we just make it happen. So, like, it gets really tricky folding in anime that's already aired. And then Apothecary Diaries is continuing into the spring as well. Still waiting for No Game, No Life season 2. That's me and season 2 of Yona of the Dawn. I'm still waiting for season 2 of Yona of the Dawn and season 3 of Noragami. I can't, like, Noragami manga is done. Can you guys just finish the anime, please? Like, come on now. I need a continuation of Nura Rise of the Yokai Clan. It's my favorite manga. I'm gonna have to look that up. I've never heard of it before. I mean, the universe is so vast, everyone. Why is it so big? They stopped after the first season. I'm mad. The number of anime out there that only got one season is innumerate. Like I can't even. I'm sure everybody on this like live in this chat and every single person that's watched anime has that one anime that they dropped one season of and they said, we're not doing the rest of it. And we're all mad to some extent. My God. Last couple of years, I've enjoyed otome type animes. Yes, Ranger. That's actually like one of my preferred types of animes is the otome kind, just because I've played otome games before. So it's like I can kind of gravitate towards this. I reincarnated as a main villain, etc. type. Yes, I like those too. Makizi Jiraiya. Shay, there is a season 2 of Nuda. They just didn't continue after that. Man, that hurts. Yes, Yona of the Dawn. If I could get a Yona of the Dawn season 2, that would be fantastic, man. I would be a lot happier today. It's not a new season, but I need Viz to do a reprint of Eye Shield 21 because the volumes are expensive. Is it because like it's a little bit older, like from the 90s? Because I've watched most of the anime. I haven't finished it, but I've watched most of the anime. So I know it's definitely a little bit older just based on the animation style. So I can tell that the manga probably has to be a little bit older than that. Yes, that's something that I kind of get concerned about One Piece sometimes. And like other anime that I've enjoyed from like previous years in their manga, like I don't have the ability to collect right now, but if I wanted to collect them, I'm kind of concerned about the cost. You know what I mean? I'm kind of concerned about the cost of some of these things because they go out of print. Maybe they need a reprint and you just can't find them anywhere. Like my friend was reading this story called Tuxedo Jin, a lot older anime. The only time that she was able to find it was at these like secondhand anime booths or manga booths at conventions. Like Anime NYC, since I live in the New York metropolitan area, is like the spot for you to go and find like older volumes that you can't find in circulation anymore from like these more niche like manga stores. Like I feel like that's your best luck in finding something like that. Yeah, they are out of print. Yeah, that's rough. I need Hajime no Ippo to bring back the anime. I mean, if I ever find the way, like the best way to advocate for something, like we should all just get together and just start like posting massively about these things until someone in the anime industry picks up, or someone like in the manga publishing industry picks up and says, yeah, maybe we need to create a season 2 or 3 about this. Maybe we need to create a reboot. Maybe we need to reanimate, whatever the case may be. Because clearly, if you're as big as One Piece, you could get a reanimation before the story is even done. Monkey D. Jirai, One Piece and most manga have box sets you can't get through Crunchyroll that are really good. Okay. I mean, every time I look for a box set, most of them are sold out. It's like really painful. Like, I mostly look at Kinokuniya, which is a publisher in the US, but they originate from Japan. Every time I look at their box sets, I'm like, man, I can't fit this in my house, but I really want it, but they're sold out. I can never find box set 1 for One Piece. And if I do find it, it's more than the retail price. It kind of pisses me off. I did see some volumes for normal price on Amazon, but I saw some for $100 plus for one volume. See, that's madness. Absolute madness. Joel, I don't understand. Like, I understand because people know they could price gouge because they just can. Because they know they like, it's not out there. But anyway, look, it's been great, everyone. We're literally hitting the 3-hour mark. So thanks for sitting with me on my longest live ever. We knew it was going to be long. We just didn't know it was this long because it is now 4:30 Eastern time. So yeah, I live in the Eastern time zone. This is the time for me. I am hungry. I am sleepy. I need a nap. But I will be thinking about the next live soon. Okay, so I will be back soon. Not as soon as next week, but hopefully before the end of this month ends. So again, thank you everyone for joining. If you have never been here before, make sure you subscribe. Watch the rest of my stuff because while, this is some of the stuff that I do like on a regular basis, some of my other stuff is like hopefully a little bit more granular or just a little different, right? But yeah, it's been awesome seeing you all, awesome having you all here. And I hope you all enjoy the rest of your Sunday and the rest of your weekend. And I hope you have a